for Tuesday, July 26th. Announcements, we had a wonderful event over at the new Fisher Hill Park. We were represented by, this board was represented by Selectmen Franco and Green. Selectman Franco, you want to tell us about it?
It was a sight to be seen, that's for sure. I know Selectman Green is going to want to give his impressions as well. But I was wildly impressed by the park itself, and as I know everybody on this board is aware, the broader project at play here, both the construction of the park and the construction of the affordable housing across the street, really allowed this town, this community, to achieve two of its principal goals. One, the creation of affordable housing, and two, the creation of new open space. Compliments to Aaron, Aaron Galentine, our Director of the Parks and Open Space Division of the DPW, to the Park and Recreation Commission, to everybody who served on the Design Advisory Team. It's a great outcome. I know that, as I mentioned before, Selectman Green was there. Mr. Kleckner was there as well, as were a lot of people from across town. An impressive outpouring of support, especially for a Friday evening in the summer.
Selectman Green.
I second Selectman Franco's remarks regarding the incredible space that has been developed at Fisher Hill Reservoir. Really, people should go there to see how good a job they've done. One thing that sort of caught my eye, earlier this year I chaired a bottled water committee, and one of the things we were addressing was the lack of hydration facilities throughout the town, requiring people to use bottled water, which is viewed by many people as a no-no. One of the things that the committee has recommended is that the town acquire hydration carts or trucks. At this event, the city of Boston, I believe, lent us a truck that they use at various events that provided water to people in what was a very, very hot day. I mean, it was a great example of, I think, what we need to do in terms of providing water during especially summer events around town, where in many of our parks we don't have fountains or other hydration facilities for people. We want to thank the City of Boston and the mayor for providing that truck, and hopefully we'll have similar equipment in the future for events in our town. But I thought that was a particularly nice aspect of the event. Bottles were given out by town employees that people could use. Very nice bottles, matter of fact. And I think it turned out very well in that regard.
Okay.
I have one more quick announcement. The River Road Study Committee, a group that I'm chairing that's looking at rezoning the so-called industrial island bordered by Washington Street, Brookline Avenue, and River Road on the Brookline-Boston border, is going to meet tomorrow evening, and I think get down to the sort of nitty-gritty details of a zoning proposal that we hope to bring forward to Fall Town meeting. So that's going to take place at 6 o'clock on the first floor of Town Hall. Just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of it, given the importance of the work and the critical nature of that particular set of parcels.
I'd just like to ask Mr. Kleckner, given that we seem to be in this prolonged heat wave, what are the options for people around town if they're trying to get a little relief?
Yes, well, we're in the midst of a heat emergency, which our emergency group has ordered or has proclaimed, and as a result of that, there are a number of cooling centers throughout the community. I know in police station, libraries, and there's a number of them at different times, and I would encourage folks to reference the town's website, which is
Senior Center?
Yes, www.brooklinema.gov. But it certainly is a very warm period, and we want to take advantage, or we want to help those who don't have cooling in their apartments or homes.
Selectman Heller.
I just wanted to bring you up to date on the activities of the subcommittee on community aggregation. They've had an excellent phone meeting with DOER, and the lawyer for DOER examined all of the contracts through Good Energy and all that stuff that we've submitted, and didn't really have any substantive comments, was praised the program. And so I think that, he said our outreach and public education plan looks great, and he feels that the protections for the town are stronger than in the version he had approved last year. So we're hoping that DOER will have a go-ahead letter that's signed by the end of this week, and then our Good Energy will file our formal petition with the TPU next week. This all happened on July 18th, which was, beginning of last week. So we're on a good track, and we are talking with Good Energy about how we're going to market this and, explain it to people because that's so important. And so you'll hear more from us, but it's on track.
Cool. Okay. We have public comment. Mr. Conquest is signed up to 5 minutes.
Good evening. Arthur Conquest, 116 Tappan Street. Last Friday afternoon, the following email from your office came to me, in quote, public comment period for citizens who requested to speak to the board regarding town issues not on the calendar. Up to 15 minutes for public comment on matters not appearing on this calendar shall be scheduled each meeting. Persons wishing to speak may sign up in advance beginning on the Friday preceding the meeting, or may sign up in person at the meeting. Speakers will be taken in the order they sign up. Advance registration is available by calling the Selectmen's office or by email. The full policy on public comment is available at blah, 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 Gov 376 meeting policies, unquote. When one goes to the website for the quote, the full policy, unquote, there's nothing there, zilch. I received the same email 2 weeks ago as I prepared to speak about making a presentation to the board regarding my objections to the promotion of Captain Paul Pender to become Deputy Chief of the Brookline Fire Department. When I arrived at the podium, I asked, how much time do I have to present, and was told on the spot, along with other individuals who had signed up to speak, that it would be 5 minutes. I'll go back to the 5th of January when citizens were told that we had 3 minutes each to speak. Now, I understand perfectly why we were given only 3 minutes that evening. However, 31 people came to the podium and stuck, by and large, to the 3 minutes, save Marty Rosenthal, the next to last speaker, who took just a tad short of 6 minutes as he justified institutional racist policies and practices in Brookline. The chair asked him to conclude, but he went on till he said exactly what he wanted to say. Check the tape video if you doubt my word. Mrs. Cohen spoke during public comment last week, not knowing till she arrived how much time she had to make a presentation. And you tried to cut her off. Now, if you go back to the 25th of February, 2016, I brought my same concerns about the public comment guidelines to your attention. Again, you can check the tape or I'll give you a copy of my comments that evening. But I'm just the N-word. Paul Pender left on Gerald Alston's answering machine and only speak publicly when someone white tells me what to say. I've seen other individuals at this podium who told the party line of covering up institutional racism, and you've allowed them to go on way past the allotted time. On the 23rd of February, I made a presentation to you that took maybe 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You asked me to please conclude at about the 3 minutes and 15-second mark. This, in my opinion, is the most sophisticated form of white supremacy. You are highly uncomfortable with those of us who bring truth to power, as the case was with Mrs. Cohen last week, and I see your responses to us as sick, racist, undemocratic, and a blatant insult to Dr. Martin Luther King and what he gave up his life for, which you make a mockery out of each time you attempt to muzzle our public comment presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have that link fixed?
It will be fixed.
Thank you. Moving on to the calendar. Minutes of July 12th. Anyone have any changes? I have a minor change.
I gave Kate changes earlier.
I'll move acceptance of the minutes, July 12th, as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next item is review of an open meeting law complaint dated July 14th, 2016. On July 14th, 2016, I received an open meeting law complaint concerning the Board of Selectmen's meeting in executive session on February 2nd, 2016, which I've since distributed to members of the board. The complaint alleges that the board did not publicly disclose Town Council Section 19 disclosure under the state ethics law that was discussed in that executive session. Town Council Section 19 disclosure is based on the fact that she is a named defendant in a lawsuit pending in the United States District Court styled as Gerald Alston et al. Versus the Town of Brookline et al. And at her request for a determination from her appointing authority that her financial interest as a named defendant in the matter is not substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services to which the town can expect from her as an employee. This discussion took place in executive session because it concerned litigation, strategy pursuant to the lawsuit, and the board made the required determination. Town Council's written Section 19 disclosure and the board's determination is and has been maintained as a public record in the Selectmen's office since that time. Town Council further requests authority to respond to the July 14th open meeting law complaint on the board's behalf, and that will be a motion before this board. Is there any discussion of this? I see none. So I will therefore move that we authorize Town Council to respond to the July 14th, 2016 open meeting law complaint to the Attorney General's office on the board's behalf. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next item is a question of approving proprietary items for the Edward Devotion School project. But before I turn the podium over to Mr. Gwiggle, you don't have to go back. I just want to state that we have a joint meeting of the school committee starting at 7 o'clock, which I intend to start on time. And before that, I'd like to get to the item with Mr. Ward talking about polling locations. So I'm going to break wherever we are in our agenda at approximately 6:45 to take Mr. Ward's item, because I think the public needs to hear that. I think that's very important. So, Mr. Quigley.
Good evening. The question before you is 2 proprietary items, adding to the list of previously approved proprietary items for the Edward Devotion School project, as recommended by HMFH Architect. First is for fence gate hardware along the site path along Babcock Street. and that is for a electrified hardware for exterior use as manufactured by D-Tex Corporation of New Braunfels, Texas. And this is to afford the school additional measures to be able to secure that area as the project is, when it is finally returned back to the town. The next item is for security glazing at 3 public entrances to the building, manufactured by School Guard Glass. And this is intended to delay forced entry in those areas. And we met with the school department and representatives of the police department, and that was the recommendation that came of those meetings.
Selectman Daley.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the gate hardware there's an area alongside what's going to be the new school and near the Zaftig's end of things. And there's a sort of teaching garden area in there, and that's what the gate is for. The main part of the playground is not going to be closed. It's going to still be open to the public on weekends and so forth, as it has traditionally been. So I don't want people to feel that the devotion space is not going to be a public space as it has been traditionally. It's just this one little area along the side that the school wanted to be able to close off at night.
Any other questions, comments? Therefore, I'll move that we approve the proprietary items for the Devotion School project as enumerated in the memo dated July 6, 2016 from Mr. Quigley. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Next item is a housekeeping item, question of approving and authorizing the chair to execute the MSBA letter updating membership of the Devotion School Project Committee. Ms. Goff.
Although we just have 2 amendments to the existing committee. Dr. Conley is being replaced by the new school superintendent Andrew Bott, and the deputy superintendent of teaching and learning is now Nicole Giddens. So those 2 names will be submitted to the MSBA after you vote on this.
Questions or comments? Therefore, I'll move that we authorize the chair to execute the MSBA letter updating membership of the Devotion School Project Committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Next item is a question of adopting a policy allowing inserts in the town tax bill mailings to promote nonprofit community fundraising. Mr. Kleckner?
Mr. Chairman, I placed this on the calendar because this was a initiative of Steve Cirillo after he was successful in consolidating a lot of disparate scholarship funds and creating a more consolidated fund under the stewardship of the Brookline Community Foundation. And one of the ideas that Steve had was to use the tax bills, the town's tax bills, which go out quarterly to all property owners, as a mechanism to achieve some fundraising for that community scholarship program. Tax bills are regulated, municipal tax bills are regulated highly by the state, and in actuality, this Board of Selectmen must approve any insert into the property tax bill. And then the other thing I think is, you want to look at the bill or the insert. You want to make sure the policy for inserting those is appropriate. If you feel it is prudent to do so. So what I'm suggesting and recommending is that the board authorize not only the community foundation but other worthy nonprofit entities in the town to use the tax bill for an insert. 1 insert per year. We would authorize up to 2 per tax bill. That would accommodate 8 organizations. I've included a sample of one that we would use, and then if there are any concerns about the process, I would do it as an open, competitive process. probably do it by lottery if there were more than one, or if there was some dispute about the cycle of when they go in the tax bills. Obviously, they go out 4 times a year on a quarterly basis.
I don't know, two per sounds like an awful lot to me, at least starting off. I don't know how. Selectman Green.
Yeah, I have a few comments or concerns about this idea. Number one, the tax bill or the example in our packet, I think could be viewed by some people as pressure from the town to make these donations. It has, a box for people to donate $1,000, $500, $250, $100, etc. I think that's one concern that I have. The other concern is, I used to regulate charities, and that left a very bad taste in my mouth about many charities.
Of course, there are some good ones.
Yeah, there are some good ones, but we have to figure out whether we're dealing with good ones or ones that aren't so good. And I would want to include in the process a requirement that they file with the town their Internal Revenue Code 990 form, as well as the forms that are required to be filed with the Attorney General's office. Yeah, and there are other things we can do, but we have to at least make sure that we're not giving opportunities to nonprofit organizations that aren't following the rules that are designed to ensure that people don't use the nonprofit statutes to basically scam people out of their money.
I remember during my time on advisory, every now and then there'd be a town initiative where we wanted to publicize it, and someone would have the idea of, well, can we put a notice in the tax bill? And we were always told that, no, it's very highly regulated, no, we can't do it. So, this certainly is a departure from that.
Well, I think, let me say, so the issue about submitting documents, non-political so-called documents, is allowed, but of course that always raises a question of what one person considers non-political, another might. And I think that's your point, Bernard, about perhaps some people feeling pressured about fundraising. So I admit there's some legitimate differences of opinion here. On the other hand, we have some very important charities, one that the town sponsors itself, which is the Team Brookline program.
I think Bernard raises a good point, though, and I'd like to see a banner across the top of anything that went out saying that the town,
Your participation is voluntary.
yeah, your participation is voluntary, we just give you this for informational purposes. That, when you're getting a bill that you have to pay, something else that looks like maybe you have to pay it too, I think is a little, the message is unclear, so.
I would feel, before this board approves any policy, I would feel more comfortable if we set some ground rules, some parameters about what types of charities we're comfortable putting an insert in, potentially putting an insert in the tax mailing about, and those that we're not. To the point that Selectman Green made, there are a lot of different types of charities that do work in a lot of different areas. They run the gamut between arts and cultural organizations, and educational nonprofits, and then there are some that are in the healthcare arena, for example. And I don't know how this board feels about potentially having an insert for a nonprofit that is involved in work that is potentially somewhat controversial.
Yeah, I would think one of the criteria would have to be that it would be a charity that substantially benefits the town of Brookline. Not one that has some more particular purpose, but one that kind of provides a community service.
Yeah, that was the intent, but I admit that it wasn't very clearly. So maybe what I could do is draft a more detailed policy with qualifications and some of the things I've heard. If any of you have any other thoughts about that, please let me know. And
I just want to comment that, I know of another community where I have a place, they send, they've done for quite some time, for the volunteer fire department, for the scholarship fund for kids, for the arts center. And, you know, I've never felt pressure. I mean, frankly, I've never even looked at the things very closely. But I think, I don't know that most people would experience that as pressure. I agree that we should, you know, maybe be clear that your participation is completely voluntary, and, you know, nobody's going to know how many taxpayers decide to do it or not do it. I mean, the contributions are made to the community. Now, when you say benefits the town, I'm assuming you mean citizens.
Town residents,
and our children, for instance, scholarships.
Yes, but I think what I'm trying to get at is not, as Ben was alluding to, they're nonprofits, but they have very specific purposes, you know, narrow purposes. And on the other hand, we have Brookline Community Mental Health, which provides substantial services to a great number of Brookline residents. And so what I think is, I would like to see is a kind of community purpose that's somewhat specific to the town of Brookline.
I had one thing in response to Selectwoman Heller's comment. You know, I've studied to some degree, you know, how, you know, charities and others sort of manipulate people, and the elderly are the targets. And it's so easy, I mean, it's absolutely easy to write something that's going to get maybe 1 out of 1,000 elderly person to give money that they shouldn't be giving. It is so easy. So I think we just have to be very, very careful not to, you know, put anything in there that suggests that a specific amount of money is expected or would be good or would be, you know, appropriate. The other thing is, I think what Selectman Franco was alluding to was, as I understand, healthcare institutions, which are big money makers, as are universities. So I would want to make sure that, you know, we're really limiting, you know, any charities that we work with to, you know, smaller local community charities, and not basically businesses, you know, that have a charitable, you know, charter. So
I would even argue that the policy should be broader than just charities. It should be a when do we have an insert with our tax bill policy to include charitable kinds of things, but also publicizing town initiatives such as, I don't know, the ability to pay parking meters on your cell phone, you know, stuff
But we
like
could do that anyway. I mean, we don't need,
Well, this board needs to approve it.
yeah, but I mean, I'm
But
sorry.
it can be, I think it would be good to have a policy. And that would be, you know, if our policy is no more than 2 sheets of paper, and one of them is taken up by a town initiative, that's it, you know.
Yeah.
And it'd be good to have a policy up front. So let's table this, and we'll move on.
Thank you for your input.
Next item is question of approving a change order in the amount of $68.60 for work to be wrong one. Question of approving the contract amendment, number 1, in the amount of $33,540 for work to be performed by Russo Bar Associates in connection with Fire Station number 1 roof and walls project. Mr. Masak.
This is, excuse me, part of a continuing appropriation for our building envelopes and roofs. And we're proceeding with our next building, which is Fire Station number 1.
And we're within budget.
With all the roof and building envelope projects to date, yes, we are.
Okay. Questions, comments? I'll move that we approve the change order in the amount of contract amendment number 1, I did it again, $33,540 for work to be performed by Russo Bar Associates in connection with Fire Station number 1 roof and walls project. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next item. Question of approving a change order in the amount of $68.60 for work to be performed by the Contractors Network, Inc. in connection with the Municipal Service Center renovations project. Mr. Masak.
Yes, this is our first change order, basically 4 items. There was a code change for the air vapor barrier and then miscellaneous masonry issues for that work. Some credit, some ads.
Questions or comments? I'll move therefore that we approve the change order in the amount of $68.60 for work performed by the Contractors Network, Inc. in connection with the Municipal Service Center renovations project. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco? Aye. Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next item is a question of approving a contract amendment number 6 in the amount of $11,800 for work to be performed by Desmond Design Management in connection with the garage repairs Town Hall Pierce School Phase 4 project. Mr. Masak, you're up again.
Yes, I am. Mr. Chairman, this is our last and final phase. I hope.
I was going to ask.
Yes, in all seriousness. And this has to do with the garage underneath the Pierce School. So we've been, basically, we did the main library garage, we did Town Hall garage, now we're doing the Pierce garage.
Okay, any questions or comments? Therefore, I'll move that we approve contract amendment number 6 in the amount of $11,800 for work to be performed by Desmond Design Management in connection with the garage repairs Town Hall Pierce School Phase 4 project. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco? Aye. Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
This is like the single tree water tank, and I'll be very surprised if we don't see anything related to the garages under these buildings in the future. But I'll be delighted if we don't see anything.
Next item is question of approving contract amendment number 1 in the amount of $5,490 for work to be performed by CBI Consulting in connection with the Town Hall and Physical Education Elevator Modifications Project. Mr. Masak, you're the star.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, basically, when we moved ahead with the Town Hall work, we had a scope in mind based on our, what I call our house Dr. Embry elevator. And the consultant then came on board and he had a completely, a greater scope, which will deal with the safety issues around the elevator. And this is just to deal with that increase in scope that they recommended so that the elevators will function more reliably.
That would be a good idea.
Yes.
That we stop getting people stuck in the...
We've already done quite a bit of work, and this will just make it that much better.
Selectman Daley, did you?
Yeah, no, so you feel after this that the safety issues with these elevators will be resolved?
I do.
Okay. Having spent some time stuck in the elevator myself, I will be happy to.
Bringing on this consultant, he just brought a different perspective, very skilled in the elevator field, Siskiyou, and I feel that what he's recommending is the correct approach. And that approach did shift considerably from what we first thought.
Okay, I'll move that we approve contract amendment number 1 in the amount of $5,490 for work to be performed by CBI Consulting in connection with the Town Hall and Physical Education Elevator Modifications Project. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco? Aye. Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Question of appointing a selectman to chair 2 committees of 7, the 9th School High School Feasibility Study and the Fire Station number 6 Maintenance Facility. Any volunteers? I'll volunteer for the 9th School, or you? Okay, you can do
I
that.
did the 9th school before. So
Okay, why don't you do that? I'll volunteer for the Fire Station.
So,
Okay.
That was easy.
So I'll move that we appoint, the selectmen appoint Selectman Heller to chair the Committee of 7 for the 9th school, high school feasibility study, and the chair, Neil Wyshynski, to chair the Fire Station Number 6 maintenance facility selection. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Next item is a question of awarding and executing contract school grounds maintenance in the amount of $104,500 with Park Landscape Associates of Roslindale. Ms. Galantine.
Good evening, Erin Galantine, Director of Parks and Open Space. I have 3 contracts for your review and approval. These are annual maintenance contracts that once approved, we can renew for a period of up to 3 years. The first one is the school grounds maintenance contract. This is the same contractor that was successful with the last bid, so we have worked with them very well, and they are high performing park landscape rather. And this includes regular maintenance visits for the schools and also our snow removal contractual services.
So we'll take up all 3. So this is
Terrific.
K, L, and M. So this is chain link fences, school grounds maintenance, chain link fences, and upkeep of trees and related work.
Great. So the next contract is the annual maintenance contract and also a new installation for fences. This is refurbishing fence, posts, railings, and new fence install as well. What you'll notice with this is we worked with the town council's office and also director of purchasing to award this a little differently. We have 2 successful low bidders. We're awarding this to the low bidder, but if they cannot be responsive, then we can then go to the second bidder and work this with purchasing. This is a method that the building department sometimes uses so that they can be most efficient and responsive when we're trying to get work done. What we've found with the fence contractors is sometimes there are very significant delays, and we wanted incentive to have better response time.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay.
Okay, and
okay, go.
the last one is our annual forestry maintenance contract, and this is for street tree pruning, park pruning, and also hazard tree removals and emergency response.
Questions, comments on that?
Is this a different contractor than we've had in past years?
This is a different contractor. So we have, this is a contractor, Northeastern Tree Service is a low bid. We just finished a 3-year contract with Northern Tree Service. They'd actually had 2 consecutive 3-year contracts with us. And we have vetted their qualifications. They are currently a contractor for the city of Boston. They have the equipment that we need, and they are also looking to employ the person that has been working with us very successfully with Northern to be their response person and our main liaison here for Brookline. So we're very comfortable with that arrangement.
And the scope of this contract is the same as it has been in past years? I ask only because we lost our tree truck, what, about 8 months ago?
Absolutely, yes, it is, and we just got our tree truck our new tree truck on the road this week.
I'm sorry, could I ask about services for trees that are either dead or dying from the gas leaks? We know that there's a problem in town with, we know that there are gas leaks all over town, and we know that this adversely affects our trees. Does this contract have any bearing on that?
It absolutely does not, unless, I mean, if we have a tree that we have determined that it's a hazard, we will go and remove it immediately. So in that sense, it does. But in terms of the legal action with National Grid regarding leaks and damage to public shade trees, there is there's been 3 assessments throughout the entire town to both determine where the leaks are and to fix those leaks. So we continue to work on resolution of that very serious issue.
So I assume your staff informs those in DPW who are working on this issue about if you discover that a tree is dead because of this, you're keeping logs of those trees?
Yes, we
The
are.
ones that are
That's
damaged by
right.
the gas? Okay.
Any other questions or comments on any of these 3 contracts? Therefore, I'll take an omnibus vote without objection. So I'll move that we award and execute contract school grounds maintenance in the amount of $104,500 Park Landscape Associates of Roslindale. I'll also move that we award and execute the following contracts associated with the repair and installation of chain link fences in an amount not to exceed $129,134. Primary contract goes to Green Acres Landscape and Construction of Lakeville, Mass. in the amount of $124,134, and a secondary contract in the amount of, whoops, am I doing this right?
Correct, $5,000.
$5,000 to Premier Fence LLC of Canton. And I'll also move that we award and execute a contract upkeep of trees and related work in the amount of $299,580 with Northeastern Tree Service of Cranston, Rhode Island. All those in favor of those three motions, all say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
would like to say, while Ms. Galantine is at the podium, I would like to acknowledge your diligence and hard work. I know it's been a multi-year process, the planning, the executing, to get the new Fisher Hill Park ready to be opened, and we've heard the rave reviews from everyone, and I thank you for sticking with that, sticking with the budget, and doing such a great job to make that come out so beautifully.
Thank you so much. I encourage you to all come out and enjoy the new park.
Yes. Next item is the question of approving the application of New England Treatment Access, Inc., doing business as Netta. Melanie Nash, manager holder of a registered marijuana dispensary license at 160 Washington Street, for a change in treasurer as follows: Arnon Verad to Kevin O'Brien. Ms. Rosatano,
Good evening.
welcome.
Yep, as you described, this is a pretty straightforward change that we're requesting your approval for, a change in our board treasurer, our treasurer to our board of directors. Kevin O'Brien is our CFO, who's very in touch with the finances of the company and is in a better position to serve in the role than Arnon.
Any questions or comments? This is kind of a routine matter. I'll therefore move that we approve the application of New England Treatment Access, doing business as Netta, Melanie Nash, manager holder of a registered marijuana dispensary license at 160 Washington Street, for a change in treasurer as follows: from Arnon Verad to Kevin O'Brien. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a few temporary licenses. I'll move them in omnibus fashion. I've reviewed all of the applications. They've all been approved by our police department upon review. So I'll move that we grant a temporary all kinds alcoholic beverage license to Hellenic Association of Boston, doing business as Annunciation Greek Orthodox Cathedral of New England, in connection with the following events to be held at 162 Goddard Avenue: the 60th birthday party on August 6th, 2016, from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Quinceanera, August 20th, 2016, from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m., and the Greek Festival from September 16th, 17th, and 18th, from 12 noon to 9 p.m. I'll also move that we grant a permit to serve all kinds alcoholic beverages, non-sales, to the Lars Anderson Auto Museum in connection with a tented wedding reception to be held on August 13th from 5:30 to 11 at 15 Newton Street. And I'll also move that we grant a temporary wine and malt beverage license to Brookline Interactive Group, 46 Tappan Street, for the following events: the public virtual reality meetup on August 4th from 5 to 8, and an ACM open house from August 17th from 6 to 9 p.m. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And the last item is a question of approving, last item on our miscellaneous calendar, question of approving a license with Verizon to occupy land for a walkway to access the temporary Lower Devotion School project. Is Mary Ann?
This is, I can talk about this because it's related to the Devotion project.
Okay.
The main way that they're encouraging parents to drop off their kids at the what was the Coolidge House site, which is going to be used by the lower grades of Devotion for the next couple of years, is going to be on the street behind Marion Street. And this agreement has to do with Joe Connolly, before he left, had worked hard with Verizon to have an agreement that there could be a walkway through their property, so that the kids could, get off on Marion Street and have a direct, and there'll be crossing guards and so forth to help them, and they walk back into the street, because it was thought that there was, I think the buses would be coming in the front and the Webster Street, so it was thought that they couldn't have all the parent drop off on that one street. So that's what this is.
So I noticed, so there's going to be a walkway through the Verizon property.
Yes.
To provide additional access to the Lower Devotion, which I think
It's going to
is-
be the primary drop-off access.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I noticed in some of the language that the use of the walkway shall be monitored, this is on page 4, by police traffic personnel at the entrance to the walkway at all times during which the walkway is in use. So are we planning to close it
Yes,
during the day, so it'll only be available?
yes.
Okay,
There'll be a gate.
okay. So, I don't have any other questions. Any other? So I'll move that we approve the license with Verizon to occupy land for a walkway to access the temporary Lower Devotion School at 30 Webster Street. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco? Aye. Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Wow. Mr. Ward, Town Clerk Patrick Ward will appear to update the board on polling locations being considered for Precinct 8 during the Devotion School construction. And I've also asked Mr. Ward to update us on the new early voting. So, Mr. Ward.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Town Administrator, members of the Board of Selectmen, I'm appearing before you this evening to ask you to vote to relocate the voting location at Precinct 8. As you well know, that Devotion School Gymnasium was the former location. It's currently offline and will continue to be offline until at least the fall of 2018. So we're looking at 3, possibly 4, maybe even 5 elections where we need to find another location. I presented to the board a memorandum with regards to the serious locations that we think that we could consider. I can briefly describe them. First of all, I would like to thank Young Israel of Brookline, the Brookline Fire Department, the Brookline Housing Authority, and United Parish in Brookline for offering their facilities. That's a big thing. It's a big commitment, and particularly with the presidential election looming in November 8th. So, but I've given you those recommendations, 4 of which I've recommended with reservations. 1 I've recommended without reservations. The one that I've recommended without reservations is the banquet hall located at Young Israel in Brookline on Green Street. This facility is 2 streets over from the current location on Stedman Street in Precinct 8. It's a large facility, it's well lit. It's handicap accessible. It doesn't interfere with the temple. There's a side entrance that could easily be converted into the main entrance for the polling location. And we've discussed directly with Young Israel, and there are some conditions. Obviously, there are religious and security interests they have. They've given us some conditions, but they're not unreasonable conditions, and they're not conditions that we haven't worked with other facilities as before, and I've noted that in my memo. The other facilities that we've offered is the fire station on Babcock Street. Our prior use of fire stations show that we would need to at least use the first 2 bays in order to have a proper voting location. But like any fire station we have, it's a working fire station, so that always is always problematic, and particularly this fire station because it's the most used fire station in the town. But it is something that the fire chief offered. It is available, and we could work with it if we needed to. The next facility is the community room at the Ralph Sussman House on Pleasant Street. It's a wonderful facility, but it was sort of like an afterthought. It was built on after the Sussman House was built, and it's relatively small. If we had to, we could use it. We've got a smaller precinct, but it's not something that we would look forward to as something that we'd want to relocate to, but if we had to, we could. So that's some reservations there. And then the last facility that was offered to us was the United Parish of Brookline. They were understandably a little concerned. They only offered us for September and November, which was a bit of concern for me. But the other concern that we had too was that you have to cross Beacon Street in order to vote. And that just takes it really kind of out of the neighborhood physically. So we were concerned about that. But the facility that they offered, it's a chapel. It's certainly not as large as Devotion Gymnasium, but it could be managed to handle voters for for the elections that we were concerned about. But again, they've only offered 2 elections simply because they're just not sure what to expect, and they have some concerns, and we understand that. So those are the 4 facilities we have. I suppose, based upon my memo, that I'm recommending Young Israel of Brookline. It really is a nice facility. It's almost as large as the gymnasium. It's well lit. It's easily accessible. And meeting their conditions is not difficult at all for us. And I think it would be a great facility for the temporary relocation period that we would be there for.
Have you just checked out the calendar to make sure that none of the elections
We have checked the calendar, both.
appear on the high holidays or anything like that?
We've checked it, and there are no high holidays for those periods of time. But we did tell them that, any town elections in 2017 and 2018 will most likely occur the first week in May, not the second week in May, which is your choice. But yes, we did check. They don't have any concerns about us interfering with any holidays.
Selectman Daley.
Yeah, I had some concerns about that location because they're requiring an additional police officer, an event coordinator, and I thought there was some extra custodial fees they talked about. So this site seems more expensive than any of the others.
Well,
Is that coming out of your budget?
generally, yes, it does. Let me just say this. The event coordinator was something new in their written response to us. But it's essentially a custodian. You're asking them to open the door, open the building and close the building and be responsible for the building while we're using it for a polling location. That's essentially what it is. It's a custodian. And it's $20 an hour. So I have no problem with that because we pay additional custodial fees for housing authority sites. So, I mean, anything that's above and beyond their regular time on the site, we pay their overtime. So it's not a big concern. The additional police officer, again, is not a concern because we hire an additional police officer at the request of the school department, for Runkle School. Because people were so used to, prior to its renovation, coming in from the back and walking through the building, that they were concerned that people, after they voted, would start walking through the building. So we, in addition to the 2 police officers that we have for the 2 polling locations in the gymnasium, We have an additional officer out in the atrium to make sure people do not wander through the building, but that they exit through the front door. So the conditions that they've offered us are not a major concern. The other major condition would be no kosher food allowed in the premises, no non-kosher food allowed in the premises, and that can easily be resolved, going to Rubens. I mean, when we feed the police officer and the
So what if
workers.
one of your poll workers, though, brings a snack?
No poll worker or police officer will be allowed to bring food onto the premises, period.
Because I don't know.
That's our deal with Young Israel, and that's certainly something that can be accomplished.
Because I don't know what the cost would be if somebody did that. I don't know what's entailed, but I imagine it would be a costly process to re-sanctify things or something.
Yeah, you're talking beyond my expertise. All I know is that it's an important issue for them, and so it's an important issue for us. And that we will make every effort possible to make sure that no non-kosher food enters that premises on Election Day.
One question related to that. Many people have dietary restrictions of their own that may not be accommodated with kosher food. Have you addressed that, or how would you deal?
We will address that with our workers and the police officers that are going to be detailed to that site, yes. Beyond that, we don't feed anybody.
So did you consider using the Coolidge Corner Library, which is the precinct 2 polling places? Okay.
There's not enough room. I mean, we considered that, we considered the elderly center, we considered KI. There just isn't enough room or access, for voting purposes. These are the sites that are available. These are the sites that were offered to us. I've ranked them as I believe the best for the town of Brookline. Sure, Young Israel does require us a few more conditions than normal, but not within the realm of reasonability and not within what we haven't done in the past already, except for the non-kosher food.
Any other questions?
You always have someone at each polling place who's in charge anyway, right? I mean, not a custodian, but the warden.
Well, the warden's responsible, but not for opening and closing, and certainly not for the maintenance of the property.
Right.
I think what Young Israel, and certainly, and I'm not focusing on Young Israel, I mean, Brookline Housing Authority has the same concerns, is that they don't want people walking through their property and sort of compromising whatever security that they have. Right. We've always been accommodating to them for the Housing Authority. I assume it would be just as accommodating to Young Israel. Things should work out with no problem. The hiring of an additional police officer, although it is an additional cost. It's a minimal cost, for the concern and the safety of Young Israel.
Selectman Franco?
I just want to seize the opportunity, because we have an audience, to let people know that we're talking about changing the polling location for Precinct 8, the former Devotion School polling location, for at least the next 4 elections, starting September of 2016. So this fall's primary election, including the presidential election in November, and then the 2 town annual elections in 17 and 18.
Right.
At a minimum.
At a minimum. And there could be others if there's an off-cycle override or something. Okay.
Now it's early voting? Okay.
Let's take the vote to change to establish the polling location for Precinct 8. I'll move that we do it at Young Israel of Brookline. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, we're entering the brave...
Before you do move further, I would also recommend that you, if you look at do you have your memos? If you look at the last page of the memorandum, if you would also include the vote directing my office to post descriptions in the precinct and to notify all registered voter households of the change.
So,
Should be the last.
do you want me to? I'll read the vote. It's,
Okay.
do you have it, or do you want me to read it?
Okay, I'll move that pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 54, Section 24, the polling place for the following Precinct 8 is designated as Young Israel of Brookline. And all those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller? Aye. Selectman Green?
Aye.
And I'll also move that pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 54, Section 24, the town clerk is hereby directed to post a printed description of such polling place in public places in the affected precinct and to notify by mail each resident consisting of one or more registered voters of such change in the affected precinct. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Early voting. We're entering a brave new world of early voting for this presidential election. So tell us about it.
Well, briefly, early voting is here. It's only here for biannual elections, though. So it's only every state election, not for state primaries or town elections. So every 2 years, you'll have early voting. It's first to appear on the radar screen this November for the presidential election, for November 8th. Its early voting period essentially is 11 days out, and so it begins October 24th and runs through Friday, November 3rd, I believe it is. It's a 2-week period where people can vote for no reason whatsoever other than they just want to vote for convenience sake. They may vote just like absentee voting. They won't be actually inserting a ballot into a machine. They'll be inserting it into an envelope, which will be tabulated on election day. And we don't know what to expect. We don't know if we're looking at 1,500 people or if we're looking at possibly 3,000 or 4,000 people.
I think you're looking at more than 100.
Yeah, definitely more than 100. There's no doubt about that. The way the law was crafted, they crafted it in a way where they didn't want to invoke a state mandate. So it really requires that, at a minimum, the requirement is that it be done at the local election official's office during the regular hours of business. Our regular hours of business are Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 5, Thursday, 8 to 8, and Friday, 8 to 12:30. So for a 2-week period, we will be conducting early voting in the town hall. Now, we're trying to accommodate, we think we can do a better job in a room in town hall rather than using our counter space, because we do believe we will be inundated with voters. So we're trying to obtain a room now for that 2-week period, but that's required by law. You may, as a community, have alternative voting sites. There's been a lot of lobbying by both Common Cause and by Legal Women Voters to have additional sites. We've done our darndest to find them, but we can't find them. Nobody's willing to commit to that concentrated period of time for an accessible site that will allow us to leave equipment there for a 2-week period in order for people to vote. So we're having a very difficult time doing that. We're still making inquiries of some private facilities. We're still making inquiries of schools, public school facilities. But it's a big commitment, and not many people are willing to step up and basically give it to us.
Absentee voting will still be available as well, right?
Yeah, it's strange what they did. I mean, what they did is the legislature didn't want to go through the effort of changing the Constitution. So they created early voting while leaving absentee voting in place. The reality is that anybody who votes from August 24th to November 3rd will all be considered early voting, okay? From November, prior to October 24th and after November 3rd up to November 7th to 12 noon, that will be absentee voting. So it's sort of like bifurcated the process.
So I know the governor vetoed funding included in the FY17 state budget for early voting. I'm wondering what implication that has, either practically or financially, on your office.
Well, it doesn't change us, because the line item that he vetoed was for a funding item for the Secretary of the Commonwealth to print additional applications and ballots and envelopes. So it really didn't affect us per se. But there's no doubt that if we went to an alternative site, in addition to what we're doing, there'll be additional costs that we haven't budgeted for. And in fact, I mean, there'll be additional costs even if we only have the one site, because they're not sure yet. As I mentioned in the memo, I mean, everything's fluid. The regulations are essentially still being certified. In fact, they're having a hearing tomorrow at the Secretary of State's office with regards to the regulations. And But, you know, what they're requiring is, and you have to have an updated voting list each day you allow people to vote. So that means that previous day's work has to be entered onto the voting list somehow, manually, if you're using paper ballots, or electronically, if you're using an e-pad. But then it also has to be entered into the VRIS, the Voter Registration Information System. So there's a lot of work from staff in one day trying to get that information updated. So there's overtime cost there that we, you know, never could possibly anticipate.
And is that reimbursable? I know that for absentee,
No,
there was
it's not.
some opportunity to get money back.
The way I look at it, it's not. I mean, first of all, they deliberately crafted it that way so it wouldn't be reimbursable. The argument that the additional staff overtime within the office might be reimbursable, it's a legitimate argument. But I think that if you look at, I gave you a citation, the governor versus somebody, which elaborated the standards for state mandates. They say if it's incidental to your regular tasks, then it's not subject to a state mandate. And somebody could argue, and I think legitimately, that those overtime costs are incidental to our regular tasks, and therefore we're responsible for them and not the state.
Worcester versus the governor, for
Thank
anybody
you.
who's interested in case law.
Do you have a citation on that?
Okay, so,
So it doesn't look good. I mean, it doesn't look good for alternative sites, but we certainly will have one.
so at the very
here
least,
the
you'll be
town
at Town Hall.
We're required by law to have it here at the town hall.
More to come.
Yep.
Don't get your hopes up for a alternate site, sounds like.
Unfortunately, that's the way it seems to be shaping up.
So the headline is, we'll be having early voting this year. So more to come on the details. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me very quickly, let's see if we can dispose of one last item before the school committee meeting, and that's a question of approving the filling of the following vacancies in the Recreation Department, recreation leader and a lead teacher.
Yes, hi.
Ms. Paradis?
Good evening, Lisa Paradis, Recreation Director. I'm here to seek authorization to hire for 2 positions, a lead teacher at the Sewell Early Childhood Center and a rec leader within our admin offices.
Any questions, comments? You will, of course, use your best efforts to attract a diverse applicant pool, including tapping into any personal networks that you might have.
Yes, we work closely with the HR department to do that and cast as broad a net as we can possibly do.
Let me just add, these positions, as I understand, are particularly lend themselves to a diverse pool.
Yes.
So, you know, hopefully we'll have that.
Yes, we do already, and we generally cast a very wide net in our searches as well, so.
I'll therefore move that we approve the filling of the following vacancies in the Recreation Department. Recreation leader and lead teacher. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break so we can set up for the school committee, and we'll get going at 7:05.
So
Oh, and there is a overflow facility in the school committee room. If you want a seat, we will be one floor down in the 5th floor, and TV monitors are set up.
And before we recess, let me just say that I've recused myself from the matter of the site selection of the 9th Elementary School due to the potential for a conflict of interest in the view of the State Ethics Commission. So I will not be part of this meeting and will rejoin when agenda item 8 is called.
Okay, 5-minute recess.
told her she's a rock star.
Why don't Andrew sit there and Nelson here? Okay. Welcome to the show. Why don't you sit next to Susan?
Where do you want me?
And
You have another Jen's chair?
yeah, what? You want to have Nelson here and then Andrew sit there, so you can whisper to Susan and Mel can whisper. All right. Guilt trip.
Hi, how are you? Andrew Bott. Nice to meet you.
Nancy used to be on school committee, you probably know that. Did you know that? Nancy used to be on school committee.
Hi. Very nice to meet
As I was telling Nancy, my sister was so we'll see. We'll see what the fallout is.
Sorry? Presenting? Do I have all my people? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sit up here. Bring your chair. Is Bernard coming back?
Yep. Yep. Yes, yes.
I'm taking your block and these.
There's really nowhere else to go.
Whatever. So what happened? You fixed bricks.
I can give you the original application tomorrow. This second part is the clearer part. Yeah. A lot of logistical questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. We went through it earlier today.
Crowd. Well, right.
You're going to get a big standing ovation pretty soon.
Yeah.
They're not ready yet.
Yeah, you will have the opportunity. I'm waiting for the signal, waiting for the bat signal.
On the minutes.
Everybody close that line right there. What I'm pointing to. Unfortunately, it is.
They are closed. They are closed. They're closed, yeah, Saturday.
Mesh?
Yeah, the mesh.
Well, that was a bright idea. Oh, God. Speaking of the sun.
Okay.
Sunglasses on.
Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, joint meeting.
Feel welcome.
Joint meeting with the school committee. We're entering a new phase in our search for a school. For those of you who've been following the process, we've essentially narrowed the site selection down to 3 potential sites provisionally. One is the Baker School site, another is the Baldwin School site, and another is a conglomeration of sites around what's now the Stop and Shop supermarket. This new phase is going to, I think, be going pretty quickly with the goal of making a decision by mid-October. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from our architect, who has been commissioned to help us with the site study, to look at the 3 sites and present some options to us. And this really is the first time these boards have seen these options. So this is all going to be new to us, as it is going to be new to you. Tonight, we're not going to be taking public comment. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for public comment after Labor Day. And I would ask that we observe the decorum that we usually observe at Selectmen's meetings, and don't speak out. We speak when we're recognized. We're going to be having public hearings, open houses, and we will also be meeting with some of our boards and commissions that have jurisdiction over some of these sites, and we may also be having additional neighborhood meetings. We'll be figuring that piece of it out as we go along in the fall. More to come. Each site has its pros and cons and challenges. We've been at this for 3 years searching for sites, and if there was a perfect site out there, we would have found it. Every site is going to present compromises, and we all have to recognize that each site has compromises. Let me just address the Stop and Shop site specifically. I know many of you are here concerned about the Stop and Shop site, and we've received many emails regarding the Stop and Shop site. And I'll state categorically that all 4 selectmen who are participating in the site selection at this point in the process have stated publicly that none of the selectmen are in favor of doing a school at Stop and Shop where the net result is no supermarket, no full-service supermarket in the vicinity. So the whole notion that Stop and Shop is the town is going to be taking Stop and Shop and putting them out of business is just not going to happen. So and the selectmen control the eminent domain process for the town. The selectmen are the real estate arm of the town. So with that said, I'll give Susan Wolf-Didkoff, chair of the school committee, an opportunity to say something.
Great, thank you. I don't have anything to say about any of that except welcome. Thank you all for coming. Robust public process between Labor Day and the decision, which will be in October. So please sort of I don't want to say clear your calendars, but we're all clearing our calendars because this is the top priority for that. This is really an update. The only thing I did want to say is a formal welcome to our new superintendent, Andrew Bott. We are very excited that he's on board, and as of July 1, stepping into a lot of big decisions, and this being one of them. So please join me in welcoming Andrew Bott as our new superintendent.
And I'll also say that there is an overflow room on the 5th floor if you wish to watch, if you can't get into the room or you want to be a little more comfortable, the school committee room has been set up to view the presentation. Mary Ellen Dunn.
Good evening. I'm Mary Ellen Dunn, the Deputy Superintendent for Administration and Finance, and joining me this evening will be Jonathan Levy, the principal for Jonathan Levy Architects, to review the very preliminary results of the work that they've been doing. And we are just going to run through some information for the community to just sort of lay the groundwork in terms of what work has been happening up until this point. And tonight's presentation, we'll be spending most of our time on items 4 through 6 this evening, but wanted for the community to understand items 1 through 3, which is why do we need a new elementary school? What have we been doing to address enrollment, and what are our current enrollment, current timeline? Excuse me. I also want to point out that this presentation is already posted on the Public Schools of Brookline's website. We have a capital projects page that covers both the ninth school and the high school. And any updates and past discussions and reports are available there for community members to access at any time. So as we've been discussing for a number of years that there's been dramatic enrollment within Brookline. And essentially from 2005 to 2015, we've had a 40% enrollment growth. We're looking at another 13% from this year to 2020. Essentially what that has meant is we've added, without expanding our footprint too much, other than modulars and some smaller renovations, the equivalent of Baker School and Pierce School. What we're looking to add in the next 5 years is a school the equivalent size of Lawrence. What's important for the community to understand and for our policy decision makers to understand is what happens if we make no decision. And currently we are projecting a shortage of classrooms of between 27 and 30. We will continue with undersized cafeterias, excessive lunches starting at 10:30, maybe not ending until after 1 or 1:30. Core facilities will not be expanded. Gymnasiums, libraries will not be addressed. And the expansion, we've exceeded the capability of expanding any short-term solutions. So a lot of the building and renovating of classrooms or splitting of space, we're really facing additional rental of classrooms if we need them, but there's no mechanism for us to expand. I think in terms of what happens in terms of class size, if there's no decision, this chart has been used a number of different times, is that currently in the last school year we had 7 classrooms that students with the number of students over 25. If we don't have an additional building, we're going to be looking at 75 plus classrooms having average class sizes of 25 or greater. So what have we been doing? Part of what we've been doing since 2009 is the facilities master plan, B-Space in 2013. The Override Study Committee looked at the demographic projections in 2014, and Civic Moxie was commissioned in December 2014 to identify a location for the 9th elementary school. What we've also done between 2008 and 2015 is we've added the equivalent of 54 classrooms, 6 classrooms built at Heath, 4 classrooms built at Lawrence, 2 modular classrooms at Baker, 11 BEEP classrooms moved out of the K-8 buildings into rental space, 3 classrooms at Pierce in rental space, and 1 brand new school built at Devotion. We're also, for next year, adding 1 more additional rental classroom at Pierce as well for next year, and that actually should be 4 classrooms because that just changed over the last couple of months. essentially, we've relocated, created, converted, expanded, reclaimed, and now we are paying over $1 million annually in rental space for classroom and administrative offices to address the student enrollment growth issues that we've had since 2005. In terms of the timeline for the community to be reminded of is that in October of last fall, Civic Moxie provided the Board of Selectmen and the school committee with 26 potential sites. The Board of Selectmen voted to pursue the construction of a new elementary school in that same time frame. In November and December, neighborhood association meetings took place, open houses took place, public hearing, essentially a collection of a lot of public and neighborhood input with regards to a number of different sites being considered. In January through March, we continued public meetings. Most significantly, the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, Advisory Committee all voted to forego MSBA partnership for the 9th school to allow for greater flexibility on cost and also on timeline and design. We also continued the neighborhood association meetings and have and the school committee and Board of Selectmen voted a narrowing to study 3 sites, and that's what you'll be updated on this evening is the viability of those of the Village School, Beverly Road, which is the Baker School, and the Baldwin Sewell site. All during this time, we've had regular interdepartmental meetings in collaboration with among the municipal departments because as you look at a school and school siting, all of these boards and commissions are impacted in one way or another in terms of their duties and responsibilities to the community. An interdepartmental team is also continuing to look at eminent domain issues, land restrictions, funding pathways, and that we are continuing with our enrollment reports and updates. And we are looking at a new enrollment report will be issued sometime between November and December of this coming year. Also between April and August, we've had additional meetings. Tonight we are at July 26th. In terms of what our schedule is for the site selection, where there'll be a preliminary update from JLA regarding the progress they've made to date. August, they'll be continuing collecting information and obtaining feedback, as well as on August 16th, the Board of Selectmen and School Committee will have an executive session on potential site costs for these projects. In September to October, we are also planning the following meetings at this point in time. To again continue the public input and collection of information from public regarding the site selection, and in red at the bottom of the slide is the most important date, which is October 13th, where both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen will vote to actually make the final site selection. That is a critical date in order to continue with a timeline, and again, we are looking at a school to open September 2020. And also for the community's information, sort of the slide provided for November 2016 through October 2018 is sort of what needs to happen next as we continue going forward. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Levy, to go through the proposals and what they have found to date and inform the committee of their preliminary findings.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. With your permission, I'm going to take my jacket off to get down to work with you. It's warm up here.
Very good idea.
It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I see many familiar and friendly faces in this room. My name's Jonathan Levy. I'm representing my firm, Jonathan Levy Architects. We're the architects who have been commissioned to study the 3 sites that have been premiated from among the many, I think some 26 that were initially considered for both the 9th elementary school and also, I'll be mentioning also the satellite high school for one of the sites. So let me define my mission tonight. My mission is really to address the selectmen and the school committee to help them be well informed about the work that we've done, to engage them as colleagues in actually the very highly detailed technical work that we've been undertaking so that they can make an informed decision in the fall. And there are a couple of additional steps that are going to take place that Mary Ellen touched on. This is really our first time to show you the work that we've done, although there have been some sort of sidebar meetings, certainly with staff who've been very helpful in helping make our ideas more accurate and better targeted for the town's needs. But in mid-August, there'll be an important watershed moment where we'll be taking some of these ideas and we'll actually be understanding the financial implications in terms of site development and building costs. There are very different conditions at the three different sites that we'll be exploring over the next few weeks. We'll be issuing more detailed documents to a cost estimator who will then be using what is called parametric means, meaning they'll be applying gross orders of magnitude pricing to study the cost implications of each site. So my job is to inform the school. So it doesn't mean that I'm ignoring the public. There's certainly, not only as an architect, but by also coincidence as a townsperson, my goal is twofold here. One is to do the very best that we can for the students, children of Brookline. I have 5 children in the school system, 4 that have graduated and 1 that's now at the Runkle. So it's very prominent in my imagination and thinking about this, what's best for the kids of Brookline. And then secondly, what's best for the town and our community, and how to make it a better, even better community than it is already. It's already pretty darn good. So with that, let me introduce you to the 3 sites once again. We have the Village site, which is the familiarly known as the Stop and Shop site. The Baldwin site, which is also adjacent to the Parks and Recreation property, the Seoul Recreation Center and athletic field. And then finally the Baker site in southernmost Brookline, which already has a school on it. You can see those diagrammed here in an overall map of the town. So we did meet a few weeks ago to start the process of hearing from you because you are our knowledge pool, our expertise pool. You know the most about what your needs are, and we need to, even though it's difficult, we need to hear every voice and record your thoughts and your concerns. So this is a record. I'm not going to go through all of these comments, but I can synopsize them. This is a record of all the comments that were made at the last time that we were together. And as we all know, the preeminent concern was the Stop and Shop grocery store, which I've shopped at for 30 years, along with many of you, and how important it is to the way we configure ourselves as a community. Many comments related to that. There are also comments that are certainly important, and many of them have quantitative answers having to do with traffic, impacts to adjoining properties and so on regarding the Baker site. There weren't any comments about the Baldwin site on that evening, but I'm looking forward to hearing more about that as we proceed. So those are some of the comments. So how do we judge the difference between these 3 options that have been narrowed down through many months of work preceding our engagement? We have topics that we're going to use, and we're going to actually chart these out for the school committee and the Board of Selectmen to help them sort of array the decision points and the various influences on evaluating positives, negatives, very negative or neutral for each one of these factors. They include, in gross terms, certainly traffic and both vehicular and pedestrian, the use of the community. Now, a lot of these relate to building design, but you'd be surprised how many of these can be influenced by the initial decisions about how to place a building on a site, what the constraints are in placing it on the site, and what the configuration of the site. Certainly, playgrounds and recess fields, how those interact with and are complementary with the building footprint and with parking and roadways. Those are concerns that we need to have. Topography, these are not easy sites. All three of these sites have significant what we call topography, meaning they're very hilly, which affects the way you can arrange buildings, and there's certainly the way you can arrange cars and play fields, which need to be dead level. So topography is a very important consideration for all of these, and it's made our job considerably more complex. And then, as I mentioned, these are the gross areas of, you can, by the way, all this information and all this detail, for those of you who would like to join me as a designer in trying to discriminate among these three sites, are available on the website, the town's website already. So I welcome you to dive in and elevate the level of the discourse that we're all having together. Then finally, in August, we're going to, as I mentioned, look at cost. Cost has many components. It's not just one. It's acquisition costs for sites, it's moving costs, it's the temporary costs that are involved during the construction, and then very significantly, because the cost of a building, if we think in terms of our duty to our future generations, is many times more greater in its maintenance and operation than it is in its initial capital expense. So we'll be also looking at the long-term costs for building on each one of these sites. And then also, because knowledge is not certain in any planning process, we'll be trying to quantify the risks, the risk to schedule, the risk to cost, the risk to permitting, and assign evaluation criteria to each one of those as well. So now for the meat of my presentation. So I'm going to spend probably 20 minutes to half an hour doing the detailed work of guiding you through how we thought of these sites, and I'm going to try to invite you into the mind of my studio at the drafting table and tell you something about what went through our minds as we went to judge each one of these sites and think of ways to configure buildings. So before we started that, we had to know something about what we're building. That falls into two major categories, building and site. So on the building side, we learned that the 9th elementary school needs to be a K through 8 school, which means it's a 4-track school, which means there are 4 classrooms per grade, 4 groups of students per grade. And that school needs to be about 800 students in size. So that has implications in terms of the overall floor area of an 800-student school. And the way we calculated that floor area is by looking at the standards that exist throughout the state and then adding one more element that the town of Brookline insists on for its K through 8 schools that many other districts do not enjoy, which is a full-sized slope floor auditorium. So doing that, we made a calculation of size for an 800-student school. That's on the K through 8 level. Also, at the site that you're looking at right now, the Baker site with Beverly Road at the bottom of the page, and the south to the top of the page, and the new Hancock Village development to the left, upper left of the page. There is an existing school there now, which is already struggling. It was designed for less than 600 students. It already has more than 700 students. Probably needs to have 800 students. We also looked at a 600 or 800 student possibility for that, either leaving it as is or adding to it. So the Baker A site. So these are, there's a nomenclature to these options so that we can keep track of them. Each site has a name, Baker, Baldwin, Village, meaning the Stop and Shop site. And then within each one of those categories, there are several options that have alphabet names, A, B, C. So for the Baker A site, our first thought was to develop, see what it would look like if we put parking on the site, at the surface. Why at the surface? Because it's less expensive. And we need to do the due diligence of covering all of our cost bases. So we wanted to look at that, knowing that it would be taking away from field space. I also need to mention that the other part of the equation that we're starting with, we have building size, and then we also have site size, and that comes into two flavors. One is parking, and the other is playfield space. So parking we can quantify. We have our parking engineer here, a traffic engineer here today, Mr. Giles Ham from Vanessa Associates, because I believe and I know that parking is going to be very preeminent in everyone's minds, parking and traffic, which the two are being interactive. And working with Giles told me, well, you've got an 800-student school. You probably need 150 spaces for that 800-student school. That's to get all the staff and teachers off of the roadways of the town. So that is an ideal scenario. Very few districts actually accomplish that with a school. Most of them accept some compromise of having some teachers parking on site and some teachers parking within the neighborhoods. But on the Baker site, let's go back to the Baker site. One of the problems there is that Beverly Road is being constricted in width and therefore passability by the on-street parking of its teachers and staff, the Baker's School teachers and staff. That's just with the load of students and staff that we have today. So it would be critically important if any development happened at the Baker site that we get those teachers and staff off the road and out of the neighborhood so that Beverly Road, which is actually has quite a bit of capacity if it weren't being clogged by parked cars, so they could flow properly. So that's the first thing I looked at with Giles is how many spaces that we have. That pertains to all these sites. Every 800-student school probably needs 150 spaces. However, when we get to Village site, you'll see immediately we accepted that that was in an urban location where people could get there by more sustainable means of public transportation and walking, and we might be able to reduce that number to allow us to fit both the school and the store on the same site. And then finally, I meant to mention fields. So fields are sort of the stepchild of this whole exercise. We sort of end up with the fields that are left over from the demand of the parking and the demand of the building. And we try to do the best in terms of maximizing the amount of field space for both recess use, athletic use, programmed athletics use for the school, and also for community use, because of every playfield for a school is actually also a community park, and those open spaces are a rare and precious resource in a town of Brookline's density. So if we look now at now that I've given you all the preliminaries, if we look now at our first thought is let's increase the size of the existing Baker School by demolishing the very inefficient and not terribly loved, by the way, wing that's off of it now that was as I speak to people around town, that was built in the 50s. And it's also crowding the site because it's in the wrong place, and it also has very difficult topography around it. You can see the outline of that building in dashed red in the middle of that parking lot. Demolish that, make a more efficient building to the south as an addition to the existing Baker, increase the enrollment from 600 to 800, then add a second school to the west, a school that would be purpose-built for 21st century education in line with the other K-8 schools around the town. That would also be an 800-student school. And these two schools would share that common surface parking lot in the middle. I'm going to be able to go more rapidly as we get into these other schemes because I'll have done the preliminary work. So thank you for your patience and forbearance as I go through all this mind-bending detail. You'll also notice to the upper left of that site that there's a road coming in from Hancock Village. This is just speculative. There is a possibility that we'll be able to establish another site entrance that will also help alleviate traffic on Beverly Road that would come in from the south in collaboration with, potential collaboration with the developer of Hancock Village. That would be a great benefit both to that community and to the school. So this is the 2 K-8 schools with shared surface parking, just to give you a marker so that you can see. And then we also made a 3-dimensional view of this to help you visualize what that would feel like. I think the takeaway here that I want to mention is that by building a retaining wall in order to extend the size of the flat play fields, we're also essentially hiding the surface parking. Nobody likes asphalt or surface parking, and we would like to suppress that parking so that it's not a part of the neighborhood milieu, but at the same time is very convenient to the 2 new entrances that oppose each other across this parking area to the 2 new schools. One factor that Giles has mentored me on, and that we know from our several other public school projects, is that another goal for school site design is providing a length of roadway that allows parents to queue up so that they're off the public roadway and onto the site so that they're not snarling public traffic. And what we came up with was about 900 lineal feet of roadway is necessary for each school in order to do that. And the way that we've done that is by having the roadway, the queuing up roadway, circling around, sort of wending its way around the parking lot and then back out through the east and exiting through the east. So each one of these schemes has a deliberate approach to not only the parking load, but also the queuing load for both parent drop-off, which is going to be a big factor. We all want our kids to walk to school, but we all know that most parents want to drop them off. And actually not only drop them off, but park and walk them in for the younger kids. And then also parking and queuing space for buses. You can see that here in the front on Beverly Road. We're allowing for an additional widening of that road to provide for queuing space for buses as well. So that's part Baker A. Baker B is a similar scheme, but here we're gaining more field space by paying for structured parking under the buildings and under a small portion of the play field. So it's very similar to Baker A, but Baker B, if you look at the subtitle below, 2 K-8 schools with independent structured parking. Each one of these schools, instead of sharing a parking lot and sharing a drop-off sequence, would have their own independent sequence. What does that mean? It means that perhaps there would be a desire, and this is something for all of us to parse together, to have a more independent identity for the 2 schools. So that I think one of the main objections that people will be raising to the utilization of this very large 11-acre site is the fact that there's something strange about having 2 elementary schools on the same site. Well, this would help alleviate that by providing 2 independent faces, 2 independent identities to go with the separate names for these. And that might work even better with the access from Hancock Village. And here's a view of what that might look like. With the playfield space, instead of being a sort of informal, amorphous open space, this would be framed and made like an outdoor room shared between the 2 schools and enlarged. And then finally, the Baker C scheme, using the it's inevitable that we need to study the efficiency of ganging all the construction onto one site and into one large envelope. Certainly that's not best for children. Children would like to be in smaller cohorts. In every public school that my firm has done, we've always aspired to create 200 to 400 student cohorts for the students so that they can be known to one another by name and by face, and known to their teachers by name and by face. So we could get around that here by creating perhaps 4 academies, as they're called, or houses within this larger building, so that, and each one might have its assistant principal or dean so that there would be a subdivision of communities within that larger building. So you can see that here, there's one large addition being made to the existing Baker School, and because of the topography, it would have a rather low profile, even though it's a rather large building, and it would step down with the hill back to the horse sanctuary to the south. This would allow a maximization of the site area, of course, because of the efficiency of bringing the footprint all together into one. And then the parking, you would ask, where's the parking? Well, the parking would then be all underneath the building. So we're trying to practice cost-efficient design by, if we need to do structured parking, building it under buildings. It's always cheaper to do it under a building than it is to build separate structured parking, say under a field or freestanding. So that's what we're doing here, actually, on all of the schemes. Now moving to the Baldwin A site. So the Baldwin site, as you know, is in Chestnut Hill, and it's right next to the intersection between Heath Street and Hammond Street. All of you know what a terrible place that is, because of the conjunction of the two intersections, the one between Heath and Hammond and Route 9 and Hammond. There are enormous backups that are going back towards the Baker site along Hammond Street. So our job here is to get the entrance to this site away from Hammond Street. I'm going to describe how we do that in a minute. A subtlety about this site that's actually not so subtle, but many people don't realize, I never really realized, that it's really two sites. The one site surrounded by the dashed red line there is the school proper site. That's the site that's actually owned by the school department, controlled by the school department. It's all owned by the town, but that's the part that's dedicated to school use. The rest of the site is part of the Parks and Recreation and is under their purview, and is really dedicated to recreation for the town and not for specific use by the school. However, there is the potential that we could build parking, and this is yet to be worked out in detail and is only very preliminary. There is the potential that there could be some kind of cooperation between the needs of that Parks and Recreation resource and the needs of a potential new school by building a new parking lot. They could have as many as 200 cars, as I've shown it here, in surface parking on the knoll, where many of you know there's already parking up there, and we all struggle to fight our way into the parking lots, whether it's down by Hammond or up there on a busy Saturday morning. So I want to be very clear that we've shown kids playing soccer on this whole kid. Those kids playing soccer in the K through 8 scenarios, when we're building a K through 8 school, there might be shared use between the school and the park. In the third example, I'm going to show you where we were asked to look at the possibility of putting a satellite high school here. Those would not be high school kids. High school kids would not be able to use those recreational, And there is a lot of activity on the Soul Park recreation portion of that site during the school days that would be in conflict with the needs of high school students. So I just want to draw that line very, very clearly, and also make it very clear that these are two separate sites that might have the potential for being some kind of collaboration between them. So in this Baldwin A scenario, just to put a marker here, I'm probably about halfway through my presentation, so if you're sort of measuring your time or starting to fidget, that I'm almost there, almost halfway through, and we'll be there in probably another 10 or 15 minutes. So in this Baldwin A site, believe it or not, we can fit an 800-student school on that site. It would have to be 3 to 4 stories tall. In this scenario, where we're trying to preserve the existing Baldwin school, which for those of you know it, it's actually a charming jewel in the town's inventory of buildings. It's a very beautiful building from the 20s with slate roofs and gables and so on. So in this instance, we're sort of packing the new structure behind it and making it a little taller than it might otherwise be. The other challenge here was to create a parent drop-off loop. It's not as generous. It's not the full 900 feet that's going to make my traffic engineer happy, but it is significant, 700 lineal feet of parent drop-off loop, and we achieve that by bringing the parent drop-off loop all the way into the site and actually having it come out under the building and then out the other side around the old Baldwin School. And these wings would, as I said, be 3 to 4 stories in height. So that's K through 8 school incorporating the existing Baldwin's structure, and that's what it might look like in gross massing terms. You see in pink the existing buildings, the Baldwin, the existing Soul Gymnasium, and the existing Soul Recreation Center, which my firm actually renovated 20 years ago. In the background there, which was the old stable house for the estate. And then Baldwin B, a K through, so this is taking away the old Baldwin School. This gives us more space, it's more expansive. We're able to lower the height of the building, but at the same time the footprint is expanding. One other little subtlety is that you'll see that circle in the middle there is some a flight of imagination about a learning commons or a cafeteria that could be shared by all the students in the middle of student life in that school. Just to the west or just to the right of it is a little patch of green. That's a recreational space that needs to be preserved by covenant. I think it's with the federal government. And all of these schemes preserve that little patch of green for recreational use. So this also has a drop-off loop that goes all the way around, deep into the site, and then under the building and out the other side. K through 8 school, all new construction on the Baldwin site. That's what it might look like. And then finally, since the high school situation is also in play, and there is some thought about how difficult it is to find an open site in the town for a new high school. The question was, is it possible, would it be possible to locate some portion of the high school population at the Baldwin? The answer is yes, it is possible. We could do a 600 student, which would not fulfill the entire demand on the new high school as it's been projected, and Mary Ellen didn't do a presentation about that today. But 600 students could be housed here in a satellite high school. There might be a reason for it to be in a separate place, maybe a different curriculum, a different program, a different kind of community that would make sense to have on a separate location. That would be a rather tall building, and it would be a specialized building, maybe around a collaborative atrium type space like the kind that's being built elsewhere around the state. And there would be also for that a drop-off loop and parking, teacher, staff parking shared with the Soul Park up on the knoll to the rear. So those were the easy sites. Now to get to the hard ones. The hard one is the village site, and the nomenclature here changes just a little bit. Instead of there just being ABC, now we have A prime, A2, and B1 and B2. The reason is we deduced that there really, of all the different opportunities for acquiring assembling property for this site, there's really only two main ones that make sense. One is a small, what we're calling the base site, which actually is the Stop and Shop property proper. There's another parcel included within it that is held in separate ownership, but that might change. So this is a simpler acquisition or collaboration opportunity. And then there's an enlarged site that also includes the car wash and the gas station that would allow additional flexibility. So for all of these schemes, I'm not showing them tonight, but we're also looking at floor plans that demonstrate the viability of parking below grade, the passageways for the automobiles, and the loading sequences for the trucks that the Stop and Shop would have. We've been in conversation with Stop and Shop, with the participation of the town, to hear about what their needs are. So in addition to the parameters that I mentioned to you earlier about the school and parking and traffic needs for the school, we've added another dimension, which is the need for the Stop and Shop itself. And from that conversation, that initial preliminary conversation, what's come out of it is that we can grow the Stop and Shop slightly, and we can certainly improve the parking situation for the Stop and Shop. And there, I think there are opportunities to make it a better Stop and Shop than the one that is there now. In addition, because there's going to be a period of construction, we believe, and I cannot promise this to you yet because there's more detailed work that has to do that involves investigating an existing building, but that existing building that was built as a manufacturing facility and then was adapted and reused as a store might serve in operation during the construction of the new store in front of it so that it could stay in continuous operation. And then once we've built the new store in front of it, then we can go behind and build the garage behind it. So that's sort of where I'm trying to go. You're in my studio now. We're working with preliminary assumptions, but that's what we're striving for, is to not only find a scenario that works to keep the Stop and Shop there, but also works to keep it in operation during construction. So in this first scenario, K through 8 school with Stop and Shop on the base or smaller site, what you're seeing on the left-hand corner there is the green space of the roof of the store, which could be reused as an artificial turf field for the new school. And the new school is oriented from east to west with major orientations to the sun. I didn't mention that earlier, but a goal of many of these schemes is to get the proper solar orientation for the classroom wings so that we can harvest daylight for the classrooms. Our firm has done many classrooms throughout the state that are largely, if not totally, lit by daylight so that the cost of running these lights can be avoided long-term by the district. So this school is actually properly solar-oriented. And the school itself is somewhat dividing the site between the retail use to the north and the school use to the south. A loop of parent drop-off and shopper parking goes under. Oh, I'm going to go to the 3D view. Here you can see that same site. That arrow on the left is the, right next to it is the store parking entrance, and also the school drop-off queue entrance. You move through that all the way around the perimeter of the site. Just as on the Baker site, we're trying to develop the entire perimeter of the site to get traffic off of Harvard Street. And then the school entrance would be facing south and off to the side yard of the site. The school would occupy only a fraction of the footprint adjacent to the store. There would be then an atrium that would get you up to the main second floor level that would be at the playfield roof level of the store. The wing at the rear in this scheme would probably be the gymnasium, an auditorium or gymnasium and cafetorium piece. And then the same concept, side-by-side school and store on an expanded site, and you can see here what that offers to the town. It gives us some more breathing room to create a better situation for student safety in front of the school, in front of the entrance canopy. It gives us more developed queuing length for the traffic, and it gives us a lower building because we have more footprint that we can take advantage of. That's K through 8 school with Stop and Shop on the expanded site. That's A1 and 2. Now, that's the 3D view of that. You can see the parent bus. Sorry?
Just which one is the school, which one is this?
The blue is the school, and the pink is the Stop and Shop with the green roof on top of the Stop and Shop volume, which is a one-story volume. A little bit of a challenge with that one-story volume is that a grocery store wants to be 20 to 25 feet in height, and a school wants to be 12 to 14 feet in height per floor. So we actually touched on that with them and thought about different ways of perhaps adjusting the first floor of the store so it could be suppressed a little bit so the students didn't have to go up so high to get onto the roof, or possibly to raise the first floor of the school and so on. So a lot of detail. I would use the laser pointer. I'm going to try to point with words because there are people looking downstairs. There are people looking downstairs who wouldn't be able to see the laser pointer. Okay, let me see, is there, sure. I will use the laser pointer. This area here is the store with the green roof on top of it. It's a field, yes, because it's we're sustainably reusing the roof space of the store as a field for the children to recreate and do athletics on. And then to the right of that, which is to the south, is the blue, which is the school portion. The store is the pink, which is underneath the green field. So the store is, just think of the store that's there today with a play field on its roof. And there are many examples of this around town. There are a number of them in Boston where public schools have occupiable outdoor space on the roofs of mixed-use facilities. So. The parking for this Stop and Shop would be located to the rear behind the store. I'm going to take questions at the end. I know that you have some difficulty. I'll try to be clearer as I move forward. And the B scheme adds an additional element, and I know you're growing a little tired, so I'm going to move through these quickly. The B scheme adds an additional element, very similar to the A schemes, in that the store would be to the left, essentially where it is now, except instead of the parking being on the front and the store being on the back, the store will be on the front and the parking will be on the back. So it's a reversal so that that parking can be accessible and usable to the school as well. And then in the blue, the school itself with a wing. So the additional element that I've added here is an access road that connects Aspinwall Avenue to Harvard Street to allow for totally independent operation of the school and the store so that none of the store traffic and the school's traffic has to be shared. That would be a value both to the school and to the store. And there is a possibility of making that connection. It would also be a tremendous value to alleviating traffic on Harvard Street. And here's a view of this. And you can see here, the pink is the store, the new Stop and Shop, with the store up front. And then the blue is the school with the passageway from Aspinwall through the school out to Harvard. And then finally, a third scheme, the B2 scheme, is the K-8 school with Stop and Shop on the expanded site. So a little bit more site room by taking the car wash and the gas station. And that adds site space that we can use for the students. And it adds more site space for footprints so that we can reduce the height of the building. And to the left here, once again, is the store with its parking, and then the blue represents the school. And then finally, a view of that. Here's the passage coming in from Aspinwall. To the right of, upper right of the page, the dashed lines indicate the new roadway, and the roadway enters into the basement of the school building. It also provides an exit for trucks that are serving the store so that they can make their turning radii. And then you can see the new entrance for the school facing to the south here. Now, I'm going to get to a difficult part of the presentation because we need to look with due diligence at all schemes. I was asked to do that, at all possibilities for this site. We have also been looked at very briefly the possibility of what the site would look like without a Stop and Shop. We looked at two schemes for that. Both of them essentially are just adding more public open space in place of the retail store. You can see that here. There's actually a park on grade that would be in place of the footprint of the store. But you've heard very clearly from the selectmen and others that this isn't really an option. And we engaged our research into these two options prior to this decision that was made by the selectmen. So that concludes the various alternatives. I know it's a lot of information for you to absorb all at once. Our belief is that this array of alternatives is complementary. In other words, they're not just different versions of the same thing, that they represent genuine alternatives, surface parking versus structured parking, school with totally independent vehicles versus school with conjoined vehicles with the store, high school versus K through 8 on the same site, and that these options will then present a varied menu for the cost estimator to look at in helping the school committee and the selectmen understand what the cost implications might be for each one of these sites. So thank you very much for your patience and your attention. I look forward to hearing your questions and comments from the school committee. And
I'm going to
from the school committee and the
take some questions and potential discussion from the school committee and the selectmen. Are there any questions, comments?
I do have a question. I know you're saying you're getting to costs later, but I'm assuming that the village site, the Stop and Shop site, is considerably more expensive than the other couple of options.
You've got to be right. That's what I assumed right out of the gate, yes.
Okay.
There's structured parking, there's acquisition, there's also risks in terms of process and so on.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Jackson.
First of all, thank you. That was actually quite helpful for me visually to see the different choices and to understand what's possible. For the Baker site, I vaguely remember early on concern about the ledge and sort of
Yes.
whether that would either limit our options and or be too cost prohibitive or not be safe. And I'm just curious if at this stage we know any more about that.
We don't know a lot of detail, but what I can tell you is that all three sites are encumbered heavily by ledge. All three, including the village site. So they'll all involve premiums in terms of site excavation and rock removal.
I have another question. The Baker site, the horse sanctuary that is sort of right at the back door there, is a very sensitive area environmentally.
Yes.
And you showed like a kind of an access road right on the edge of that. And I am wondering if you have had a chance to think at all about building near such a delicate area and what those impacts would be, and does that mean that would, I assume, drive the cost up somewhat on that site?
Thank you, Nancy. Yes, we're very aware. Our civil engineer is actually doing a separate little sidebar study to look at the setbacks that are needed and to try to assess the level of participation and cooperation that we'll need from the Conservation Commission. But actually, it's more than wetlands. There's actually a stream in back of the site that has a 200-foot setback in 2 stages. So we've delineated that to the best that we can. We're not actually going to do a wetlands delineation. It will become a separate little chapter in our report, and we'll need to describe what the risks are in terms of process. I don't think there's a big issue in terms of cost. I think it's more in terms of process and schedule.
Any other questions for Ms. Trolowski?
No, you go ahead.
Just a quick question. On the Baker's site, there's a big drop-off in the back.
Yes.
This is all before the drop-off, correct? Or
No. What we've done is we've pushed the buildings off onto the sloped portions of the site.
Oh,
in order to maximize the level portions of the site. So we're taking advantage of that, and that will involve some ingenuity in building design to have essentially buildings that step with the site down. The drives that you're seeing around the back of the site are at quite a lower elevation than the play fields. There's almost 45 feet in height difference between the two. So we've taken that into account. We knew that it wasn't going to be a simple exercise of making plan diagrams, that we'd also have to be looking at a sideways cross-section as well, and that has been taken into consideration. It can also be an advantage, as I mentioned briefly during the Baker presentation, in terms of reducing sight lines to the parking, but also it's an advantage for structured parking because we can tuck the parking in under the buildings as the site steps away, essentially in the basement of the buildings, while still having at-grade access.
Thank you.
Selectman Heller?
I just want to be clear that on Baker, for instance, Baker A and Baker B and Baker C all involve basically the same area for the schools, whether you have the one K-8 school with the 4 academies, or the independent structured parking, or the shared surface parking. Is that correct?
In terms of where the buildings are placed?
Yeah, the
Yes, we're pushing them out to the
floor area, if you will.
We're pushing them to the perimeter to reserve this. Oh, all involve the amount of floor? Yes, they're all the same floor areas.
No, but I'm also asking about the site.
The placement.
Itself. Well, because the perspective on, if you look on page 23 versus page 24, page 24 looks like a lot bigger area, but I think it's just the perspective that you've drawn it. Is that correct?
No, the lot size is the same.
That's what I mean.
Yes, it's an 11-acre site.
Okay.
Yeah. One view is a plan view of the same. We wanted to provide, that Baker A on page 23 and 24, it's the same proposition. One is just a
Correct.
flat view,
It's
bird's
just a
eye
view.
view,
Yes,
and the
okay.
other is an
I just
angled
wanted to
view
make-
to give you a
And
three-dimensional.
that's true in the other.
It is, yes.
in
Every
what-
scheme I've provided both a flat bird's eye view and also an angled view to give you a sense of the three-dimensional spatial qualities
All right.
that would be implied.
Now, the other question I have is on Baldwin. I mean, we're all, I think, realize probably in our guts that the village school would be far more expensive because of all the acquisitions and the mixed use and et cetera. But Baldwin, incorporating the existing Baldwin structure versus all new construction, again, those sites are exactly the same, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay,
site area is the same.
right. So is there are there any cost implications that you can see? I know we're going to discuss this in more detail in August, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about the cost implications of that.
Between retaining the existing Baldwin
Yes.
School historic building and
Yes.
not?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'd be sort of taking the wind out of my estimated sales if I speculated. But my guess would be that the removing the existing Baldwin School is going to be more cost-effective than trying to retain it.
Okay.
Ms. Scotto?
My question also is about the Baker School. You have shown in the plans 2 K-8 schools for each plan. And we have also batted around the idea of having one Baker School there with, in a sense, a lower school and an upper school on the same site. So it would all be Baker, but it would be a much bigger Baker, but it would be one unified school. Would you see any of these plans as being workable for that site, for that concept?
Yes, our version of that is the so-called Baker C scheme, which is essentially one large school, one contiguous school that would share a very large auditorium, would share an enlarged, probably a double gym, would share an enlarged cafeteria. Or it could be broken down into satellite cafeterias. So as I mentioned during this portion of the presentation, one way of dealing with the size of a school, a 1,600 student K through 8, might be to break it down into academies or sub-schools within a school. So that's what the Baker C is.
Just to follow up on that, there are other options. You could have an upper school across the field from a lower school.
Yes.
So I don't think that I think the pedagogical question seems separate in my mind, if I'm hearing you correctly, because you could do any one of these three with any of the pedagogical options.
Oh, let me reflect on that for a moment. Yes, so you could have, for example, well, let's go back to this. This is the clearest kind of two-school version. One incorporating the existing Baker structure, the other a wholly new L-shaped school. And you're saying, say, the existing one could incorporate pre-K through 4, and then the one to the lower right could be grades 5 through 8. Yes, they would be different, though, I think, in terms of their programming and the kind of core and common spaces that they would have.
I just want to make it really clear that, at least from my perspective, and I think the school committee's perspective, the capital option can't really drive the pedagogical choice, meaning that it's important for us to understand those as separate questions.
Yes, and I think they can be held separate.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a site selection
Yes.
exercise. We're not going to back into a pedagogical model because of a site selection choice.
No, and
Okay.
really, I'm not going to be providing the kind of detail
Right, thank
within
you.
the
That's
envelopes of the buildings that would prescribe one use or another.
Exactly, okay.
Selectman Daley and then Dr. Jackson.
So this one you're showing right now, I believe, was with underground parking. Is that right?
Under building parking.
Okay. Because the other options, this has a larger field. I mean, we're talking about 1,600 kids on this site, are we not?
Agreed.
So that some of these, I mean, when we have young kids, they need play structures. Older kids need some room to run around. So what's the size of the different field options? You know, this one where the parking is elsewhere, so there's a bigger one, and versus the other one,
It's an excellent question. I don't have that at on the tip of my tongue, but I will promise to bring it to you on August 16th.
But I mean,
and we can evaluate. We can evaluate.
Go back to 23 for a minute.
Yes.
So that field,
Smaller.
to me, for 1,600 kids, looks way too small, but I'm not, you know.
Yeah, you zoomed right in on the difference between these two schemes. One has surface parking, which is taking up surface area and playfields, potential playfield space, and the other has placed the parking onto the building, but it's more expensive to do that.
Dr. Jackson?
Looking at the Baldwin site again, and I know you sort of didn't get into great detail about the parking because that could be determined later with the relationship to rec, but how many parking spaces currently exist and how many would have to, for the 150, I think you said 150 would be needed?
150 would be needed. That parking area that's shown in this slide is almost 200 spaces.
Oh, it is? Okay,
Yes.
it already is 200 spaces, great.
Yeah.
And-
No. Oh, what's there now?
Yeah.
I don't, it's hard to count because the parking on the knoll is not formal.
Right.
So there are not lined spaces.
But this is an estimate of 200 if we were to make that
Yes,
arrangement.
yes.
agreement.
And we're doing quite a bit of site work to accomplish that. We're building essentially either a steep berm with bleachers or a retaining wall to the south there. We're doing a lot of rock removal. We're doing a lot of planting to maintain the green space, the quality of green space that we all know there.
I just want to say, though, because
I'm not done yet with my question. So can you also just speak to the buses on this site? Because I feel like with the other sites, it was a little clearer to me sort of how you thought about the bus movement on this site versus like the drop-off and pickup by individual cars.
Yeah, so where it says Heath Street there, just above that, you see there's 3 buses there. Let me see if you see them there.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, yeah.
No buses.
Yeah, it's not enough bus queuing.
Yeah, that was my concern. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can maximize that by further study, but yes, we need a lot of bus space.
Selectman Daley?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because I do see several members of the Parks and Rec Commission in the audience tonight, that we fully understand that putting a parking lot in the parks area of that property would be something we would have to have many discussions with them about.
Just to expand on that, I mean, we're not going to do this tonight, but there are many many boards and commissions that have different pieces of all of this. Conservation, Parks and Rec, transportation, EDAB potentially, advisory obviously is going to be a key partner. There are historic concerns. I mean, there's a lot, so that's not a specific, that's one example of multiple things that we're going to have to do this fall.
Any other questions from the boards? Okay.
David.
Up, Mr. Pollock.
I don't have a question. I have a comment, and that's just to say that I'm thrilled. I mean, I've seen, I don't know how many, 10 schools, and I would just say that they all look like schools to me that I could get really, really excited about. I mean, because we've been at this for a really long time, some of us for, almost a decade on this journey. I want to see an excellent school built for our community, and I could see that outcome in every single one of these sketches. And we've said over and over again that every site, not just these 3, but the 26 or whatever, has deep and daunting challenges. And we know that, but we also know that we're growing by more than 50% in our school population since 2005. We don't even know where we're headed, but we have to solve this problem. And we have to accept some compromises in order to get some benefits. And I'll just say I'm thrilled because I can see the benefits that we can have for our community in these preliminary sketches. And so I'm pleased.
Ms. Trolewski? Okay. Well, I'll...
Do you want to say a couple things?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead. I'll say a couple things that are very specific. One is, thank you. This was a tremendous amount of work already. We know we're only halfway through the project, or 2/3 of the way through the project, I'm not really sure, halfway through. So this is great to just see an early set of things. We have a lot to chew on, a lot to deliberate. A couple specific things. You mentioned the use of the Baldwin site for the high school. I just want to make it clear to everyone that there is a separate and parallel process going on with the high school and high school site selection. It's here because we asked JLA to do it as part of the contract, but there's one set of deliberations at the 9th school and another one about the high school, and obviously they dovetail, but just so we're clear, there is a whole separate process about the high school. The second thing is, and just to Selectman Daley's point, I think it would be helpful just to hear from staff, not right this minute, but a recommendation for us as the architects go through each of these different sites. Different sites are going to require input, specific input from different boards and commissions, and so not just in general feedback. And so anyway, it would be very helpful if in the next piece of work you all could identify, and potentially we can, Neil and I could try to contact the board chairs so that in the September docket timeframe, we can start to tee up the kinds of conversations that that might be worth having. So anyway, because I'm sure they're already planning their fall agendas. A third thing is that I think that what we are all hoping and expecting from the school committee point of view is that we get a go, no go on any of these deal breakers on any of these sites. I think that we're all quite mindful of the notion that Lars Anderson proceeded pretty far into the conversation before legal issues arose. And so making sure that we don't, what we can't have is in October, we vote a site that then is not feasible. So any deal breakers that can be identified, need to be identified before then, legal, environmental, conservation. I don't even know what the whole list is. We've gone through it a few times, but I just want to make clear that from our perspective, we're expecting that what we vote in October, there aren't going to be deal breakers after that, because we need to sort of proceed. I think the last thing I would just say is, actually two more things, sorry. One is about the analysis. I think it would just be helpful, either now or hereafter, to just understand a little bit more about the kind of, so we have all these different sites and we have a lot of criteria that we've identified. And so it was actually really helpful to just hear your voiceover as an architect talking us through it. But at some point we're going to need some essentially matrix of some sort saying, here are the criteria and here is how the sites do against those criteria, both qualitatively in prose, but then also just your judgment of, I don't know, high, medium, low, scale of 1 to, Likert scale, whatever it is, but some way to help us sort through the trade-offs. Because, again, back in 6 months ago, we had a tremendous outpouring from these smart growth advocates in town who had prioritized Stop and Shop as a site at the top of their list. We're also hearing a tremendous amount in the last number of months from people who use the grocery store and need a grocery store, that they have concerns. So anyway, it's really important just for us to be able to look at some of those, and if there are real trade-offs to make, to understand those. And if there aren't real trade-offs, meaning you can get around it, that's important also. And then I guess my last point is just on deliberation. There's been a lot of talk, it's a little bit of a tangent, but hopefully it'll make sense. There's been a lot of talk recently in town about the open meeting law and deliberation. I think there are a number of people who would like school committee members, selectmen, to be weighing in on Facebook and in that flow of ideas, and Facebook is not actually a public forum. So we are legally, I just want to say this really clearly, we are legally prohibited from engaging in things that we may deliberate on in non-public forums, and Facebook is considered a non-public forum. So what you're not going to see, I expect and I hope that there'll be a great community conversation about a number of these things, but school committee members and selectmen, if we are going to vote on something, we can't deliberate on it on Facebook. So I just want that to be clear. Some people perceive that as an unwillingness, and it's actually a legal prohibition. And you can like it or not like it, take it up with your legislator. But I just want that to be clear. So all of the discussions that we have are going to be in open meeting. It also means that, as Senator Sanders said, democracy is messy, and so we're going to be having conversations in public that in a private setting you would just have the conversations in private and present it to the public. So there will be some groping as we try to grapple with this, grappling as we get to, grappling as we get to an answer over the course of the next couple of months. So apologies in advance that it's not going to be quite as efficient as some people like, but that is democracy. You're all welcome to be here with us for all of it. At any rate, I just want to leave it,
Right,
put that out there.
With one exception on the having all these discussions in public, it is appropriate for the boards to be discussing certain things in executive session, especially regarding the purchase of real estate. One of these options does require the purchase of real estate, and if we have the discussions in public session, it could put us at a disadvantage should we be negotiating for the purchase of real estate. So not everything is going to be in public, where we can legally, where we must do it to protect our interests and be prudent stewards of the taxpayers' money. We'll do that. So with that said, there's a lot here to chew on. This is the first time we've seen it. We have a lot to digest. The community, you all have a lot to digest. Every site, as has been said a number of times, has its pros and cons and challenges, and all are going to require some element of compromise. So, yeah.
And just to end on Mr. Pollock's note, we are going to end up with a ninth school. We are going to end up with a great ninth school. It will not be 100% of what everybody wants, but it will be a great school because this is Brookline and that's what we do. We build great schools and we have a terrific community sort of process around that. So we're going to do our very, very best.
Ms. Dunn?
Just as a point of closure, I just want to make sure that people are aware of where they can find updates about this project. And also to remind people that there were feedback cards, I believe, out both downstairs on the 5th floor and here. So the audience members will have a mechanism to provide some feedback this evening based on what they saw, and staff will take those this evening.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We have more of the Selectmen's business to be doing. Thank you.
Don't worry, we'll be sure to return it to you.
We met with John Bain. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Most definitely. We're looking to, the committee is looking to make a recommendation mid-October. Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well,
I'm fine. We're going to build a school.
no. Well, we have to go to town meeting. Thank you. No, it was in the RFP that the option of doing it, it was a due diligence thing. Right, mixed use. No. And you can quote me that, okay. Star?
Do you
Yeah,
have the URL of the website where the announcements are going to be?
A full-service supermarket.
No, but there was a subset. It's a big website. Public projects.
Yeah, but
Who's this guy?
we just have to, we need to get the exact boundaries, but they'll be. Yeah. Hi. Okay.
Like his question, if you do the Stop and Shop order, is there any thought about how long it's going to be closed during construction? At all? Oh, I misunderstood that.
Okay.
So that's, oh, but that's not, that's, but I mean, is that the criteria that the 4 selectmen set?
Okay.
No closure at all?
That'll be studied.
Okay, thank you.
Mocked up, I would just seem like really
extra, how you use the minimum requirement. That's the problem. That space is just so tight. Exactly. Right, exactly. So that one doesn't seem in line with the tradition of no, exactly. But as an architect, how about safety? Just with the mixed use, keeping to me that's a huge demerit. Yeah, it's really not. Okay. As long as that's acknowledged. Thank
Yeah, I thought so. I'm going to ask that we do the conversation outside. We're going to try and get started again.
On for him, he just uses all of them.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Anyway,
It's amazing. We got through the whole list of meetings.
Okay, September 9th. Okay, thanks.
Well, our objective, and we've done this in other projects,
As soon as Nancy gets back, we'll get started.
it's actually better than if we had done nothing. So, for instance, we built in Boston a new 600-kid school that ran a road that was backed up every morning.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for
And
the.
what we did was basically put in a drop-off.
Oh, that's your copy. This is my copy.
Some of our land and expanded the road so that drop-off. Exactly. So that way they can.
It's like.
Than happen at a bus drop-off. The buses, instead of walking, they could.
Then drop on the end of private.
Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you.
If you give them their own lane, it is just for them.
We have some licensing. The first item is a question of approving the application of Refrulo Cafe, LLC, doing business as Refrulo Cafe, Colleen Suanaski, owner, holder of a common victual license at 147 Cypress Street for an increase of hours from Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., to Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., so you're opening earlier.
Opening earlier, yes.
Okay. Introduce yourself and...
So my name is Colleen Sanowski. I'm the owner of Refrulo Cafe, 147 Cypress, and I'm interested in opening my hours and opening at 7 instead of 8 to try and catch the coffee crowd in the morning. Passerbys, high school kids. That's really what I'm interested in.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No, I have no objections.
This isn't a public hearing, but I'll take any comments from the public. I see none.
I would just say that it was an excellent idea to have coffee.
Well, come on up to the microphone.
I have no knowledge of this restaurant. I'm not near Cypress Street, but I really feel that it is an advantage to the population to be able to stop and have coffee in all areas of the city. And I'm sure you have other things for breakfast. So maybe some of the students would eat breakfast before they went to classes.
I happen to agree. So.
And you actually live near Cypress. So.
I do. And so does Selectman Franco. Therefore, I'll move that we approve the application of Refrulo Cafe, LLC, doing business as Refrulo Cafe, Colleen Sanaski, owner, holder of a common victual license at 147 Cypress Street for an increase of hours from Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Sunday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., to Monday, Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Good luck.
So do you do brunch on Sunday?
Yes.
Always on the lookout for brunch.
Good luck.
Great, thanks so much.
Sure. Next item is increase in seating, outdoor seating. Question of approving the application of Taberno Taharo, doing business as Taberno Taharo, Deborah Hanson, owner, manager, holder of an all kinds alcoholic beverages license as a common victualler at 999 Beacon Street for an increase in outdoor seating from 24 seats to 48 seats. Mr. Barnowski?
I don't represent Ms. Hanson, but I was speaking to her in the lobby when things were running a little long. I know she stepped out to her restaurant, and I just called her. She's on her way back. She'll be back.
Okay, so why don't we, thank you. Why don't we move on to the next item, and we'll come back once she comes back. It just happens to be the location next door, approving the application of Tate Inc., doing business as Tate Bakery and Cafe, Surat Or, owner, holder of a common victual license at 1003 to 1005 Beacon Street for an increase in outdoor seating from 15 to 35 seats. What's going on?
Hi, good evening.
So why don't you tell us what you're hoping to do here?
So we expanded into the location, the space next door, and we had 15 seats before, and we would like to add more seats. That was the idea of expanding, so.
Okay, so there's sufficient room on the sidewalk.
Yes.
I see our building department has weighed in. It is a very wide sidewalk.
So I have a question about how many seats are currently outdoors at your establishment. I read in the packet here that seemingly there were more seats at one point than you were permitted to have. So is this actually an increase in seating, or are we just sort of legalizing existing conditions?
It's increasing in seating.
I think I read that too, and I believe that they
removed
the seats that the building commissioner objected to, but they would like to add those seats back.
Yes.
Any questions, comments from the board? This isn't a public hearing, but I'll be happy to hear any comments from members of the public who wish to comment on this. Mr. Franco.
Jim Franco, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Obviously, outdoor seating is an amenity, makes the St. Mary's Business District, which is so important to Precinct 1, more attractive. However, when I saw this item on the agenda, I did go and count the seats, and it seems like they are currently, at least as of last week, they had more seats out there. I don't want to object to this, but I just think more security is required, or more oversight is required, so that establishments just don't go and arbitrarily take up the public sidewalk. Thank you.
Okay. Come on up.
I think this is private sidewalk, but yes.
Yeah, it's a private sidewalk. But still, you need a license to.
Hello, I'm
Yes, sir.
Charles Terrell, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. I spend a lot of time in this cafe, and I spent a lot of time there before they expanded, and after they've expanded, and I think allowing them the expansion of seats makes sense because they have the space for it, and it's a wonderful place to hang out in the community.
Okay, so any other questions or comments from the board? I will.
Yes,
Yep.
I would ask the question, how much sidewalk space is left for pedestrians once you know?
So I measured and Peter measured, we have 20 feet from our storefront into the city sidewalk, and there's enough space for pedestrian to walk on the city sidewalk.
See, this is a very wide area, and part of it, this area is actually private, owned by those building owners, although they still need the license to put the outdoor
I
seating.
understand that, but I'm just wondering how much space pedestrians have.
There's
Just wanna
plenty
make
of
sure
space, yeah.
it's enough.
Mr. Ditto
Here comes
may
Mr.
give us.
Ditto. And I can't tell from this diagram.
There's 15 feet of public sidewalk
Okay.
beyond their property line.
Good, that's good. Thank you.
Well, I will just caution you, since there seems to have been some confusion, if we grant this for 35, that's all you should have?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the application of Tate Inc., doing business as Tate Bakery and Cafe, cert or owner, holder of a common victual license at 1003 to 1005 Beacon Street for an increase of outside seating from 15 to 35 seats. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Good luck. And is Ms. Hanson here yet? Okay, we'll come back to her. Inflammables license, a public hearing on the application of MH Dinesh LLC, doing business as Allied Properties, Mordechai H. Dinesh, owner, for the keeping, storage, and use of gasoline, 500 gallons, in the tanks of 25 automobiles above ground at 45 Marion Street. Mr. Barnowski.
Good evening, members of the board. Adam Barnowski with the Law Office of Robert Allen on behalf of the applicant. It's a pretty straightforward request. The property involves construction of 64 residential units, and this is really a license to store gasoline inside of vehicles in the parking garage below the units.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go for it.
Are you saying you're asking to park cars that have gasoline in the tanks?
That is correct.
Why doesn't it say that? This makes no sense whatsoever.
They are required to come to us for this license, and that's the title of the license, so it's kind of one of
No,
these.
I'm not complaining to you, it's just that sounded like something that was a little frightening to me, since I live in that neighborhood, when in fact you're just talking about parking cars that have gasoline in their tanks.
Yes.
I mean, whatever the law says, I think we need to have, a clear statement of what we're voting on.
Well, you've just clarified it, Mr. Green. Any questions or comments from the board? This is a public hearing, so if anyone wishes to speak for or against this license, come on up.
And this is going to go in my file of bizarre things that we did.
I live on Marion Street, and I just want to make sure.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, Deborah Bennett, 40 Marion Street. I would just like to know that this is cars, because that sounded like storing gasoline. And obviously, I don't think that that would be allowed in a residential neighborhood. You have enough trouble in gas stations, but I would really like that to be clear, that it is automobiles that will be having the gas, and how they estimate that number based on the number of cars that can be put in there. Because we already have difficulty on that street, but the building was allowed, so I'm assuming that the parking is underneath.
I'm just doing the division.
You're having-
500 divided by 25. Whoops.
20.
So it's assuming 20 gallons a car.
Oh, so these are all large cars, Mr. Barnowski.
I think that they're allowing for a large vehicle.
They're-
I think most vehicles are much less than 20 gallons. I know mine is.
Unless they're all like Escalades.
So you're not going to have any electric cars? Just kidding.
Any other public comment on this license? Seeing none, I will move that we approve the application of Tate Inc., doing businesses.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will move, it's getting late, I'm getting a little daffy. I'll move that we approve the application of MH Dinesh LLC, doing business as Allied Properties, Mordechai H. Dinesh, owner, for the keeping and use of gasoline, 500 gallons, in the tanks of 25 automobiles above ground at 45 Marion Street. So it's clear in our vote.
Did you say it was underground or it's above ground?
I know it's below the units, although to be honest with you, I'm not sure if it's below grade.
No, I don't think it's below grade.
Okay.
It is below grade?
It's not.
No.
Oh, okay. So the motion has been made. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you.
I think we'll move on to the grant of location. This is a public hearing on the petition of NStar Electric, doing business as Eversource Energy, for permission to construct a location for such line of conduits with necessary cables in the following public ways: Essex Street, Beacon Street, we actually have three.
There's three.
Okay, so we'll do one at a time. So this is Essex Street, conduit northerly at the intersection of Dummer Street, a distance of 82 feet to 808 Commonwealth Avenue. Mr. Ditto.
Yeah, this is a request to relocate the existing service to 808 Commonwealth Ave. That's the old Cadillac Olds building, if you're not familiar, and the new service will come off Essex Street. And it will require running about 82 feet of conduit. We do have representatives from Eversource here to answer any questions. I might point out that the information sheet was filled out, and if you look at it, it's a pretty benign operation.
So we're looking, this is a 1 to 3 day job during regular hours. Traffic disruptions? Any traffic disruptions?
Minimal.
Minimal, so we're not seeing street closures. When do you see it starting, roughly?
Good evening, I'm Sheila from Eversource. They're probably going to look to start this as soon as they can get the permission to go out there.
Any questions from the board? Any comments from members of the public? Seeing none, I'll move that we approve the petition of NStar Electric doing business of Eversource Energy for permission to construct location for such line of conduits and manholes with the necessary cables therein under the following public way: Essex Street, conduit northerly from manhole 4060 at the intersection of Dummer Street at a distance of 82 feet of conduit to 808 Commonwealth Avenue. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next item is a public hearing on the petition of NStar Electric doing business as Eversource. And this is for Beacon Street, a conduit southwesterly from manhole 21075 for 245 feet northeast of Short Street, a distance of 100 feet to 1440 Beacon Street. So what's happening here?
Yeah, this is a request to upgrade the service to that building also.
Yeah. Here we go. So this is 100 feet of conduit, 1 to 3 days also, all day shift, minimal impact on the roads. So
Yes.
we're not seeing road closures. We're not seeing any parking restrictions, no resident access restrictions, no service interruptions. Okay. Any comments from the board, questions? This one is pretty straightforward. Any comments, questions from the public? This is a public hearing. Anyone wishes to speak for or against this grant? Now's your time. Okay. Seeing none, I will move that we approve the petition of NStar Electric doing business as Eversource Energy for permission to construct a location for such line of conduits and manholes with the necessary cables under the following public way: Beacon Street, conduit southwesterly from manhole 21075, approximately 245 feet northeast of Short Street, a distance of 100 feet.
We're down at Essex Street?
I thought,
No, we did Essex already, so we're on to.
we're 1440. We didn't do 1440.
Oh, I thought we did.
Nope.
Apologize.
Distance of 100 feet to 1440 Beacon Street. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Okay, and the last one is, this one is Montfort Street, conduit running northwesterly, a distance of 150 feet to Essex, and Essex from Montfort 254 feet, so this is a total of 400 feet and one new manhole. Mr. Ditto.
Yes, this is actually has to do with the future reconstruction of the Commonwealth Ave Bridge over the Mass Turnpike. MassDOT has requested from Eversource to relocate this conduit so that they'll be able to continue with the plans to reconstruct Commonwealth Ave Bridge.
So this one is a 3-week duration, Monday through Saturday. We're not looking at road closures, parking restrictions, no resident access restrictions. We are looking at some service interruptions to 143 and 25 Montfort, and then 2 street lights, a fire alarm box and a traffic box at Essex and Montfort for an hour or 2.
I just have a question. At one point, there was discussion on the part of BU or the state or somebody of closing off Mountford and some of the access we have to Commonwealth Avenue on those streets in conjunction with redoing that bridge. Is that part of that effort?
This has to precede that.
Well, I don't want to help them in any way to close off the Brookline streets so that we can't get out to Commonwealth Avenue. So
Yeah.
I don't want to cooperate in any way with that effort.
Yeah, that won't happen.
Okay.
So as the chair noted, there's going to be an interruption to the fire alarm box for, I think it says 2 hours in the project information sheet. I'm wondering if there are any automatic alarms hooked up to that fire alarm box, or if it's simply a call box.
I'll check with the highway department. They actually finished their survey of all the fireboxes, so I'm sure we have that information on hand.
Okay, I mean, I would hope that if there's automatic alarms hooked up to it, that there's some provision made for fire protection.
Correct.
So is this going to affect traffic on the BU Bridge?
No, we're not going onto the bridge itself.
But you're working in areas where people sort of feed onto it, aren't you?
Yes.
So I
But
would,
at best, we'll just take one lane closure, and then the other lanes will be left open to traffic.
and what dates is this going to occur on?
This work is, we're doing this work in coordination with the state on this project. So once they're looking for us to get in, we'll go in at that time.
I wonder, Mr. Ditto, if you could just get back to Mr. Kleckner with a few more details on what the state project is.
Sure.
So we know if we want to oppose it.
Well, that's way advanced in the design. I think the final design has been approved.
Correct, and I think that they've come up with a construction schedule.
Yeah, that's been years in the making.
In essence, it's to replace the current deck that runs over the Mass Pike, that sort of houses Com Ave. That whole deck has been deemed, I think, structurally deficient, or at least it's sort of at the end of its useful life. And the state has advanced the project. We're over 2 weekends, I believe, next summer.
Correct.
They're going to come in with prefabbed decking and wholesale replace that what looks like street. So there will be service interruptions not only to vehicular traffic, but likely also the Green Line, the B branch of the Green Line, and pedestrian access as well. But to the chair's point, this is a process that's been going on for, I believe, at least the past 18 months. There have been a number of design meetings with impacted residents, and I know that that Mr. Ditto and other members of the DPW are fully plugged in and have made comments to ensure that the impact on residents of the town of Brookline are minimal.
Yeah, and we, Selectmen, Franco and I met with some Boston officials arranged by Representative
Moran.
To discuss some technical eminent domain along the storefronts, temporary.
A temporary taking to allow for staging activities to occur.
Right, so there's been a lot of communication with the storefronts, and there's been a lot of communications with the town. And then there was also a lot of activity around bicycle accommodation on Commonwealth Avenue, and they're doing some innovative things on Com Ave, including a cycle track, I believe.
Yeah, a fully protected cycle track.
This whole area in the morning and I assume in the afternoon is a total disaster in terms of traffic.
Yep.
So I would hope that we do a lot of advanced planning to at least let people know that this is not where they ought to try to get to their job. And, you know, other steps to ensure that we minimize what's going to be chaos during this period of construction. So.
Yeah.
I think it's, go ahead, I'm sorry.
With the Longfellow Bridge still out, you know, people who are going across to MIT or coming the other way really don't have a choice but to use the BU Bridge. Well, I guess they could use the Mass Ave Bridge, but it's a nightmare. So, I don't know if this will make it better, but.
Well, I mean, we just need to make sure we plan ahead of time to at least let people know, what they're going to be running into.
I think the outreach has to be similar to what we undertook to replace or when we removed, the bridge over Route 9, the Hearthstone Plaza Bridge. I think no matter what we do and how hard we work, this is going to be an impactful project. It's going to disrupt traffic and people's ability to not only get from Brookline, Boston, over to Cambridge, but also to go north-south, east-west on Commonwealth Avenue. And I think the current plan is to do the work over the weekend to hopefully minimize impact, but this is a corridor, a street that is heavily trafficked 7 days a week, and we've just got to try and make it better. It's not going to be totally unimpactful.
This is a public hearing, so if anyone wishes to speak for or against this, come, now's the time. Yes, ma'am.
Deborah Bennett, Marion Street, Brookline. I don't totally understand this. However, I can't understand why they're even building what they're building. And it seems to me it's being done, if I'm correct, to benefit Harvard moving into the area. I would do anything I could to mess them up. But it's my feeling, because this whole thing is so destructive to the people who live in that whole area for what they're doing and maybe why they're doing it. And I think it maybe behooves people to have a greater understanding of what this means to all of us before it's approved, so that the public may be able to participate more in what this is, because I don't think people may have understood the meaning of this particular request.
Well, this request is to relocate some electric lines.
I understand that, but that's still cooperating and helping the whole project.
Okay.
And I know it's small, and I know they've done a lot of work, but that whole project that they're doing is, I would put any impediment I could in their way to doing it.
Which project are you referring to?
Well, I don't know, because I only know that what they're doing on Commonwealth Avenue is going to be disruptive of everybody who lives in that area or works in that area. And it doesn't matter, because for some reason or other, they've decided it's necessary, and I don't know why it's necessary.
Well, I
I'm
believe
just saying that.
Selectman Franco said that the roadway on Commonwealth Avenue is considered dangerously deficient. So this is part of this is getting to upgrading that. But I was concerned because earlier, at some earlier stages, they were talking about blocking off some of our roads out of Brookline onto Com Ave, but I am assured by my fellow selectmen and Mr. Ditto that that is no longer part of the plan that would restrict our access, our ability to get from Brookline to the BU Bridge. At one time, they had a plan where you had to drive all the way down into Boston and turn around to get onto the BU Bridge. They were not allowing you to come out the Brookline roads to get onto the BU Bridge. But I'm assured that that is no longer the case.
Okay.
So I
Well, if
think
it's
that...
for safety, then I suppose there's no choice in that.
Anyone else wish to speak? Any other questions from the board? I will therefore move that we approve the petition of NStar Electric doing business as Eversource Energy for permission to construct in a location for such line of conduits and manholes with the necessary cables therein under the following public way: Montfort Street, conduit running northwesterly from manhole 22864, a distance of 150 feet to Essex Street, and then Essex Street, conduit running northwesterly from Montfort, a distance of 254 feet, and one new manhole, numbered manhole 30005. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have one item left. We're coming back to item 9, the question of approving the application of Taberna DeHaro, doing business as Taberna DeHaro, Deborah Hanson, owner, manager, holder of an all kinds alcoholic beverage license as a common victualler at 999 Beacon Street for an increase in outdoor seating from 24 to 48 seats. Come on up and tell us.
I apologize for not being before. I had to leave and go back. There was an issue
No
at the
problem.
restaurant, so here I am back again.
So tell us what you're doing.
So in 2012, I doubled the size of the restaurant. I took over the space next to it, and I just moved over onto that patio, assuming that that was okay. And I didn't realize that I needed a license to do that. And so after having doubled the size of the restaurant, I'd like to also double the size of the patio from 24 to 48 seats.
Okay, so you've been operating at 48 seats, and there haven't been.
Usually, yeah, yes.
Yeah,
I had no idea that I
Okay.
apologize. I had no idea I needed to reapply or get a license.
Any comments, questions? I know that's a very.
This is on private this is basically on your own property.
Oh,
You're still leaving
absolutely.
15 feet for pedestrians.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right, and this is right next door to the earlier one.
But you should know anytime you change the seating, you have to come back to us.
But she acknowledged that and
Yes,
you know.
I know, but she's been
I apologize.
she's been there for a long time.
No, I mean, it just, I didn't crowd it. I didn't make it jammed. I thought, okay, this looks nice. This is nice. Okay, I'm good.
This is not a public hearing, but I'll be happy to take public comment. I see no one wishing to speak. Any other comments from the board? I will.
No, I'd just say, I think the outside seating is very popular there, so.
Yeah, and I think it's a great spot. It's a very wide sidewalk. There are no abutters to be affected by noise. It's kind of the definition of the place to do it. So I would move that we approve the application of Taberna DeHaro, doing business as Taberna DeHaro, Deborah Hanson, owner, manager, holder of an all kinds alcoholic beverage license as common victualler at 999 Beacon Street for an increase in outdoor seating from 24 to 48 seats. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I think that concludes our business for tonight. Thank you.